All right, welcome to the show. This is David Wilcock live with Artistic Disclosure. And this week we are going to do a deep dive on photographs and paintings of vintage UFO sightings, which I think is very relevant in light of all the information that is now coming out into the view of the public at this time. It's a very exciting time to be alive. I want to thank you guys for being here. We're going to have a great show. Again, thank you all so much for being here today. And last week we broke our 2026 records. We had over 4,000 people watching live for hours. So we'll see if we can do that again today. But again, I want to tell you guys that I am sincerely and deeply appreciative of you and very, very happy that you're here today with me. So thank you for being here, everybody. Let's go to the comments real quick and see what we're doing. Serena Bella says, I'm looking great. Thank you for that. I hope that's true. Hello, beautiful family. Hello, David and all. You are wonderful. Gold sizzle shirt. That's right. Today, I bring you the gold sizzle shirt. I felt that it was my obligation as a talent to bring some real sizzle to the show today and really make myself shine. It is Angry Daddy time. That's right. That's just one of my characters. It's not anything disruptive or bad. It's just one of the characters that I play on the show. But the algorithm likes to censor those comments for some reason. I was just rereading book 4, The Secret of the Saucers. Okay. Smash the like button. That's right. So we're going to focus on the positive today. We're going to focus on good things. I understand there's a lot of really upsetting stuff going on in the world right now. And, that's part of the milieu that we're in. That's part of what we're dealing with. But we're not going to get too dragged down into that. We'll cover it a little bit. But, I believe that these events are not doom and gloom. I believe that we're not going to have World War III. I don't think this is going to turn into some really horrible thing. Wow. R.W. Phoenix coming right out of the gate right away. The donation for $333. Rising like the Phoenix. Thank you, David, for all you do. Your courage and shared wisdom is always appreciated. Love the gold shirt. May peace, love, and light be unto you and us all. Namaste. Thank you, R.W. Phoenix. Yes, you do rock. We're very grateful for that. Really helps us stay on the air, and we're already at 1,111 concurrent viewers. So you guys are showing up right away for me, and it's great. And R.W. Phoenix is obviously somebody who's really helping us out here. So thank you very much, R.W. We're very appreciative of what you're doing. So, yeah, that's right. We just had a very intense planetary alignment, all the planets except for Mars. Interesting symbolism with an alignment that doesn't include Mars. Beverly Adams just donated $10. Thank you very much. What is God news today in the world, David? Well, there's a lot of good news, or God news. I don't know if you want to say good news or God news, but it could be both. It could be both. We're definitely working through a lot of challenges as a planet here. And I'm nonetheless very grateful to be alive. I'm very grateful to be here with you today. Lots of things that are happening that we all benefit from in the long run because of the nature of what's really going on in the world. Oops, my little lamp is off. Let me go fix that. Oh, he's dying on stage. He's just dying on stage. No, we got to fix some of these things right away. So let's get that going. See how that looks. Okay, a little bit more. Boom. All right. See, that's real depth of field, man. You see me walk right back into the set, get it done. Cynthia Shannon just donated $50. Thank you very, very much for that. Now I feel better about my life. Everything's good. Okay, so the resolution kind of sucks right now, but that's probably just because all you guys are signing on. We have a lot of people signing on right now, and that tends to make things get a little messy for me, but does it look good for you guys? I hope it does. Let's just make sure that everything on my side is good here. Yes, it looks good on my side, so I think we should be okay. Let me also perhaps, hold on. I have a laptop on upstairs, and maybe I should tweak that one, but we'll just see if the resolution gets better, because right now everybody's signing on, and if the resolution doesn't get better, then maybe what I should do is shut down the other laptop upstairs. But everything looks good, sound is good. I like your golden shirt. Master Kenobi, hey, Brother David, looking forward to your show today. Is the old Gog and Magog story finally playing out? Will you touch on that? Namaste. Jacob Schurer says, we are spiritual beings eternally having a temporary human experience. Yes, I would totally agree. So yes, Gog and Magog, I guess you're talking about end times, Armageddon. Well, I don't want you to get too afraid of anything. I think that we really need to just try to stay calm and be focused and remain in the positive, remain in the light as much as we can. And in fact, that is a very important thing. Everything looks good, sounds good. Okay, right. My visual image is starting to get better, so hopefully it's going to be okay. Great sound and video, somebody says. That's good. Awesome show last week, David. Resolution is fine. Quantum Possibility just donated $20. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so let's talk about UFOs, man. We've got a very interesting situation happening in the world where disclosure has already begun. Disclosure is already underway, and it's really incredible that this is happening right now. And again, I'm just so sincerely appreciative of all of you guys for being here today. Thank you so much for showing up. I know that you could have any number of things that you do with your time, but you're choosing to spend it with me today, and that really makes me very happy. So I want to thank you once again for everything that you're doing. It really means the world to me that you're here. I sincerely mean that. Now my picture looks pretty good. I have this shirt that keeps poking out, so we'll try to get that to go down over there. Anyway, oh my God, it keeps doing it. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with the fact that disclosure is coming, and we're getting the negative and the positive at the same time. You know, there's some very dark stuff that's come out in the open for people to learn about, and it's a very intense period of history, very intense time for us all. So we want to really focus on being in the light, being in the positive. I don't believe the law of one speaks of Armageddon, says Starseed. Well, it does talk about the fourth density shift, and it is consistent with other reports in that the negative comes to light. When we look at the times in the law of one where the fourth density energy goes up, where there's a sudden surge of fourth density energy and it becomes more powerful, at those moments, we have the exposure of the negative. So one of the first times that the energy went up was 1936. And this corresponds with the rise of Germany under the Führer and everything that happened with him. So that's an example where, again, the negativity in the world becomes more prevalent, more obvious, but at the same time you get major advancements. And then the next one is 1971, which corresponds very nicely with Richard Nixon, Watergate, and it corresponds with the arrival of the gas crisis, the really beginning of the whole collapse of the economy that started to, accelerate after that. 1971 was a very big year. Then we go on and we see 2011, 2012 is another focal point. We have the Snowden revelations about mass surveillance that comes out right around that time. And it's just really powerful stuff. So I'm not going to lie to you. I think that we're all going through a very intense process right now. It's very difficult. It's very painful for me as well. Angela Chartrand says, David, your streams are always amazing. Keep going with your intel. We are here. Well, I'm glad that the picture looks good. I'm glad that we're doing everything right here. LCD, such a wonderful and exciting time to be on Earth, focusing on positivity and gratitude. Namaste. She donated $20. We are going to Frascio Coretti. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a big change. It's the end of a certain way of living, and it's the beginning of another. We had that Saturn-Neptune alignment that took place on the 21st or the 20th, and it was right around the day before that is when we had an arrest that was very prominent. We also had this disclosure announcement, which is incredible. Rockety Rocket just donated. Thank you very much for that. We were bracing for snow. He missed the stream last week. Helped us prepare and stay warm with my presentation on extreme weather. Yes, a lot of people are getting hit. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world with weather and weather patterns, and it's all part of this wild, wonderful tapestry that we're living in that's, all part of our collective awakening. So I want you to focus on how you can be as present as possible, how you can focus on being in loving consciousness instead of in despair. And, I'm not going to create more despair. That's not my goal. So these UFO photos are very near and dear to my heart. Most of them are in black and white. They go back, way back in time to the early 20th century. And when I see them, it just gives me this nostalgic vibe. So I said, you know what, let's focus on some great nostalgia. Yes, Khomeini is gone. And hopefully, I don't think there's any problem with that particular word. We'll find out. But you just, Anyway, I mean, it's a big current event. It's what's going on right now. And it's an uncertainty. So we're trying to work through that as best we can. And I think focusing on the positive and talking about things that are uplifting and inspiring is the right way to go. That's how I'll always choose to live. And that's why I like this so much. Iranians as well as Venezuelans are celebrating across the free world. You're not being anti-war, you're being human rights. Well, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of negativity associated with this regime. And they've certainly, suppressed women's rights. And so I understand that. I know that it's very controversial. I mean, a lot of people are probably really freaked out right now. How do you stay positive during these times? Well, I think the focus is to be as pure in your heart as possible and focus on the fact that we are not alone. That's one of the things I like to do, is to realize that over and apart from me or whatever my work says or whatever my work has done over the years, there is a greater meta-reality that we're all living in. It's very powerful, and it carries us all through our own dark night of the soul and brings us back to our center, brings us back to our unity consciousness, which is so important. We are all living in a unified field. And we've talked about that in many other shows, that there is no space, there is no time. There is only a singularity of consciousness, and that is the oneness. That is the law of one. So back in 1981, this material law of one started to come through. I talk about that all the time. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite source in the intuitive revealed teachings category, because I had done all this research in college on UFOs. I was awakened to it very early along. And then lo and behold, this channeled material comes out that seems to really capture everything I had studied and a lot more. It talks about geometry, talks about what types of extraterrestrials are out there. Little Tiny Joe just donated 50 pounds. Good evening, the darkest night before the breaking of the dawn into the golden light age. That's right. Charlie Winter, thank you so much, David. So much happening all at once. Wars in the Middle East and Mexico, weather, solar events, files, disclosure, etc. God is shaking things up. Do you think all of this is connected? Yes. Look at what we've been saying in previous weeks. Look at the focus on the solar activity. The sun has been going nuts. We've got stellar alignments, Saturn-Neptune alignment that just happened. We've got this huge planetary alignment that's going on right now. Stephanie Simonson just donated. Reese, Scout, and Letty are looking forward to your talk today. Thanks for being here. Roseanne Jacks, I learned so much from you, David. Thank you for doing this every Sunday. So, yes, we're definitely going through a lot of really cool stuff here. And so it's a big time to be alive. It's a big time to be part of the whole milieu of life on Earth. And yes, it's difficult, it's painful, I get that, but you are not alone. I'm here with you this week. We're doing a really great thing to bring out more UFO disclosure and keep your focus away from, oh my God, how bad is this going to be? Oh my God, is this World War III? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So no reason to be out of alignment. We can stay in alignment, which is to remain positive. Remember, it's a conscious universe. The universe is created from a loving, infinite source. And once you realize that, once you start to understand that there is a loving source in the universe, you might choose to associate it with Christ. You might choose to associate it with some other religious teaching as well. That's okay. We don't force any religion on anybody. I personally love Christianity. I love the teachings of Christ. And I think that he's right on the money about so many things. But I also am not going to be dogmatic and say, oh my God, you have to believe this way or you have to believe that way. We're going to focus on the practical, consciousness that is necessary to get us through whatever we have to get through from moment to moment, because it's a very difficult time. And so we're already at 2,000 concurrent viewers. So yes, life has been difficult, incredibly difficult for everyone. After I'd already started building this show, the war with Iran broke out. Now there's different opinions. This opinion said back on the 15th that it could be potentially weeks or longer. Sustained weeks-long military campaign is being war-gamed out. Then it says weeks, of course, could easily turn into years. Just ask Iraq. Well, I will say that up until now, the trend line has not been that these things take weeks and weeks. The trend line has been that it goes pretty quickly. Let's hope that there is some sort of de-escalation. Let's hope that we can get to resolutions fairly quickly, and that doesn't happen. But it is certainly something that we need to take a look at. So, you know, it's a very intense time, and we want to be able to focus on what we can do in our own lives to take it easy, you know, not be so worried, not be so freaked out, because man, freaking out just creates more of what you don't want. If you spend that time living in negativity, you spend that time living in worry, it's not going to do you very well. So yes, there are these headlines and, oh, maybe it's going to last for years. Maybe this is going to become the next big Iraq thing. I don't think so. Up until now, we haven't seen anything like that. And I just think that there's going to be a resolution that won't make it take so long. And I hope that that's true. But, you know, we're working on this one at a time. They lost their leader. This was the divinely anointed, you know, they consider him to basically be like a God figure. He's way more than just a politician. And so, you know, that at least hopefully means that maybe things will come to an end more quickly. I certainly have nothing against Muslims or people who practice Islam whatsoever. In fact, I actually really like the Quran. But, you know, we're trying to do the best that we can here. And that's a good thing. So if you see, yeah, I mean, it's an atrocity. I get that. But like, these people have created a great deal of pain in the world. That's what we're focusing on, is apparently trying to stop that from happening. It's a very controversial issue. I don't need to get into, I'm not going to get into the ethics. It's just something that we're dealing with now. It's something that is happening. Vakapalo, thank you very much. Vicky Crew Fuller, sending out peace and love to all Earth. Yes, I am praying that this does not escalate into any type of World War III. The best outcome could be that it stays localized, it stays regional, that it goes through pretty quickly, and that's the outcome that we want to visualize. Up until now, things have been staying stable, thank God. We haven't had too much trouble. And again, hopefully this will be over in a reasonably short time frame. So they've announced 40 days of public mourning in the wake of what happened to him, 7 days of public holidays. This just shows you again, 40 days of mourning shows you how significant he was. And at the same time, they are also saber rattling. The saber rattling is ongoing. We have more donations coming in. Wow, we're really doing great on that. Julian donated. Thank you very much. Sabotage. My husband Bobby on his second day of not smoking cigarettes after 30 plus years. He needs support, a prayer, and a little reminder he is strong enough to make anything possible. Well, Bobby, we're praying for you. Father, Mother God, please help him stay off of cigarettes. Thank you very much for that. Cindy J., thanks for being with us every week, sharing your light, calmness, and knowledge. That's right, and I'm sharing wise words. Once you remember that the universe is conscious, once you remember the universe is alive, that takes you into a whole new level where you don't have to be bogged down by all this junk. And you remember that there is an intention in the universe. There are higher powers that are working on our behalf to bring us into good, positive, loving circumstances. And so maybe some people see this as really scary and negative and they can't see a positive out of it. I certainly do. That's right. Ahmadinejad was another one who was reportedly lost in the strikes. And again, he was a former hardliner president. The best way to break a bad habit is replace it with a good habit. That's right. All the best for giving up on smoking. So the audience is supportive. People are here to spread love and to spread, good things. So, that's very positive. And we want to, focus on that positive, make sure that everything's going really good. So I love you guys. I'm glad that you're here. And let's talk about this current event some more. So they did raise the red flag saying that they want to have revenge. Unfortunately, let's pray for this to go away quickly. The state TV saying that he will pay a price unlike any other in history and that revenge is coming. So yes, I mean, that just sets the stage, that we're in a very tense time. It's a very difficult time here. But what we're doing is just focusing on how we can be as positive as possible. And that's always what we do. Oh my God. What's up with the sniffing? No, it's because I have a cold. Nothing else. Anyway, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you're here with me, because we are in the middle of history being made in real time. We are seeing things we've never seen before. We are living through amazing events, and we got to remember that we're not alone. I think that's a very critical part of the awakening process, is to keep ourselves in the light, keep ourselves focused on how we can be better stewards of our own lives, better stewards of this earth. We do pray for the 3 casualties and the 5 who were wounded. That's all we've lost so far, which I guess is pretty good, all things considered. You don't want to see epic losses of life. But there is some loss of life, so this is already in a different category than what we had with the previous situation with Venezuela. So again, we're trying to focus on how we can be positive. I believe that brighter days are ahead. I don't want you to get dragged into this, because again, the darkest hour is before the dawn. And that's something that we always want to remember, that we're not trapped here, we're not lost. We're actually going through a staged initiatory process that has incredible benefits for everyone. It doesn't just happen for no reason. These things happen because we are going through a massive awakening process. And you got to remember that obviously the politics of this are very intense, that there's all these things happening at the same time. And to take this step to go after and attack these people certainly is an intense move that changes the playing field and spends more political capital. It's going to make people angry. It's going to make them upset. They're going to not like it in some cases, many cases probably. And then they're going to want to know why, and they're going to want, Congress to get involved. They're going to want impeachment. So I just believe that nothing in politics happens by accident. Nothing is accidental. There's reasons for why these things take place. Nathan Wood says, David, I've been watching you since 2008. You're my favorite. Current events remind me of your talk about chaos theory. Everything's going to be okay. Love you, man. All right. Mira Patel says she has to go. Bye. Well, thank you for being here, Mira. And so, we're good. It's a good time to be here. I do believe, as you just said, that everything's going to be okay. Let me see if I can turn that light on right there a little bit. Get that going. I can do it from here, I believe. Hold on a second, you guys. Let's do that. All right. Didn't have to walk all the way around. And that gets my set even more lit up the way that it should be. Hit the like button. Absolutely. Don't forget to do that. So yes, UFOs are the topic today, and UFOs have come into the collective zeitgeist, and it's a very intense thing to realize that we're going to be getting told the truth, or at least some of the truth, by the official sources, and I believe that's going to create a consciousness shift, a paradigm shift, pretty much unlike anything we've ever seen before. We've been expecting this for a very long time. It is happening now. We're going to talk a little bit about that again, just show you one little thing. Ed Creeder says, any info on sky trails? I see some in the sky today in Montana. Well, we don't know. So I haven't really been following that story too much. If you're seeing them, they probably, I do think that these things happen. But again, I don't believe that it's going to wipe us out. I don't believe we're all doomed. I just love being alive. I love being here. Love talking to you folks. And I want to, it's like a bad movie. I get it. And when will they land on the White House lawn? Somebody says, well, who knows? I mean, it could happen once we get the truth and once people start to realize. That's what the law of one basically says, is that the timing will be around when the public is able to handle this, and this is no longer scary, but this becomes something that we can all handle. And it's a very intense time of initiation for all of us. Once again, I mean, some people don't care. They get mad at me for saying this, but we had nonstop high winds for the whole week. Monday was beautiful, then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And, well, no, actually, that's not true. Monday is when it started. It started on Monday, and it went through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then on into Saturday as well, a little bit. So it was actually almost 6 days, but I can't really call it 6 days because on Saturday, it tapered off starting in the late morning, early afternoon. So I get it. Disclosure is not the top thing on most people's minds. Now we've got these other distractions in place, but distraction is the name of the game when there's all these things coming out that they don't want you to know about. And so you know what that is. We've certainly not covered it that much on the show lately, but in the past we certainly did. This is a time of incredible awakening and so much going on here. Oh, wow. Michelle Feltman has had irregular heartbeats this week. She asked for us to pray for the healing of her heart, and she donated $20. Father, Mother, God, please pray. Please help us pray for Michelle Feltman for the healing of her heart. We want to make sure that she's okay and that she gets good rest and good nutrition, good hydration, that everything is good. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Amen. So anyway, thank you, Michelle. And does Monica the Moose still visit? Yes, she does. I saw her in the driveway about 2 weeks ago, something like that, and it was great to see her. But I'm glad that you guys are here. And again, disclosure is not the top thing on most people's minds. But notice that one of the things that we saw this past week was 2 major offerings of testimony. That is not insignificant. That is something that we've been wondering if it would ever happen. It didn't seem like that would ever take place. Who would have ever thought that we would actually see something like this? But now it's actually happening. So, yes, it's an exciting time. It's a vigorous time. It's a time of new things being revealed. We have 2,500 people watching live right now, 2,545. That's pretty amazing. And we're doing pretty good on Super Chat so far. We could use some more, but I'm already very grateful for what you guys have done. Thank you very much. It is awesome. The Moose is a classic. That's right. So anyway, it's time for me to be able to look back and reminisce on how we've come so far. We've come so far to get to this point of disclosure. So many years that I've been working in the trenches trying to tell people UFOs are real. We're not alone in the cosmos. And, you know, now we're learning that there's a positive side, there's a negative side to this. There's both ways. And we have donation from Beverly. There's a lot of symptoms people associate with Ascension symptoms. Going from a carbon to a crystalline-based body, please research this. Yes, Ascension symptoms are definitely a thing. As your vibration is rising, as the molecules in your body are transforming, which is part of what these teachings are telling us, you're going to go through very intense activations. And again, many people did not do the homework and they didn't understand the concept of a planetary negative force. They didn't understand that there could be evil on that scope with that depth and that complexity. And now that the information is coming out, they're really freaked out, and I get that. This is definitely a time to take stock of who you are and what you're doing here. Do a personal inventory. That's one of the things you do when you get sober, the searching and fearless personal inventory. And as you go through that, you learn, hey, I'm allowed to be myself. I'm allowed to exist, and I am loved by a higher power. There is a higher power out there that loves me. There's a higher power out there that is guiding me through my life. and I am going to be held accountable. That's very important. The higher power does have karma. And so you got to maintain positive alignment, try to keep your karma as good as possible, because karma can hurt you. If bad things happen to you, it often, in my view, is because of the invitation that we invite these things into our lives. And, but then again, my Christian friend says that God reigns on the just and on the unjust. So there's both aspects here that we have to look at, and how we get through this period of time, how we live our most authentic life, is a very, very important question that we all deserve to seek and have the answer for. And so as these, speaking again about negative things coming to light that we've learned from files, the media did a little tiny bit of it and then just very quickly got away from it, but we're seeing resignations, we're seeing these things unfolding, and it's accelerating. And so, sure enough, right this weekend, we have this very intense distraction. Isn't that interesting how that's happening? The UFO thing really didn't do anything. Nobody really seems to care whether UFOs are real or not. It's like, yeah, well, we already knew that. So, again, we want to ask ourselves, what is the big picture? What is the divine construct that we're living through? How does this relate to us as souls? And you are going through a transfiguration. You are going through an awakening that will change everything about you. And that's very cool. And so don't take it for granted. Don't take for granted how stunning it is that you are working through this karma and working through this process along with the rest of us. We're all doing this together. We're all working to find that balance, to find that equanimity. We're all working to see how we can become better stewards of the earth and more consciously aware and awakened in our own bodies, minds, and spirits. So we don't want to lose track of our souls. We don't want to lose track of our destiny. We don't want to lose track of what really matters. And at the end of the day, every show is going to have the same point, which is learn to love yourself as best you can. Learn to be there for yourself and for others. And focus on what you can do to elevate your consciousness, elevate your positivity, because again, it's a drag. I get it. It can be a real drag going through all these things. Angela says it's an epic time to be here. You're absolutely right. Multitasking, yeah, you want to try to focus on one thing at a time. That's definitely a very good practice. So let's talk a little bit more about current events, something you might not have seen. 9 more of the top military officials of China have been purged. And this to me is again another sign that things are really shifting quickly, because we were told about this. We were told that there was going to be epic upheavals in this country, and now we're seeing it. And so I think my belief is that this is part of some greater initiative that is ultimately going to be benevolent. And that might just be one part of something that has many, many different facets that are all taking place simultaneously. So yes, it's a very exciting time. In case you didn't know about this, let's review this a little bit, because we like to do a little bit of current events sometimes just to keep you up to date if you don't know about these things. So, in this latest move, first reported internationally by Bloomberg on Thursday, the country's top legislative body stripped Ground Force Commander Li Qiaoming and Information Support Force Political Commissar Li Wei of their seats, along with 7 other officers. Remember that it was 18 at first, 17 plus the main guy, which was a weird number, to say the least. And now there's 7 more. So this is huge, and it's ongoing. The dismissals were handed down this week with state-run Xinhua reporting from the 14th National People's Congress. Those targeted include Ground Force Chief Ding Laifu, Central Military Commission officials Bian Ruifeng and Wang Donghai, Navy officers Shen Jinglong, that's an interesting name, and Qin Shengjiang, Air Forces Yu Zhongfu, and Rocket Forces Yang Guang. Former analyst who follows these elite politics, Christopher Johnson, recently told the New York Times of the ongoing purge trend. This move is unprecedented in the history of the Chinese military and represents the total annihilation of the high command. Whoa. So remember, there's things that capture our attention that are on the surface, and that's where everybody's mind looks. It's like the magician holds one thing in his hand, but then the other hand is going into the pocket to pull out the next trick. That certainly is what this feels like to me. Definitely something powerful. And, what does it really mean? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. There's no absolute guarantees yet, but for me, this is consistent with a pattern of stuff that we've been hearing about for a long time. It's something that, really does mean that things are changing in the world, and I think that it's a very big positive when we look at it that way, how we can get out of this and become better stewards of the earth. Now, here's another thing, man. We've talked so much about the AI menace. Did you see this on Thursday? That it recommends using tactical nukes 95% of the time in simulated war games? Oh my God. And then they wrote 780,000 words explaining why they did what they did. So yes, this is another, it's a little bit scary, but I mean, it's something that we're learning right now. Apparently, again, I spoke to insiders about this just recently, just the other day. There is an AI problem. There is a negative force that is using AI, and so perhaps we need to get right with God and get right with our own, disclosure process. As we said in the slides from a couple weeks ago, maybe this disclosure process is happening in part to preempt the negative AI takeover. I mean, people are being told they're going to lose their jobs. It's a scary time. So this kind of news is worth talking about, because if the AI is this off base, then we certainly don't want to hand over power to it. I don't think anybody is saying we're going to, but you definitely don't want to let the AI autonomously prosecute a war. Look at what happens here. War game exercise carried out by Kenneth Payne at King's College, London, using 3 teams running simulations on ChatGPT 5.2, Claude Sonnet 4, and Gemini 3 Flash. The teams played 21 war games against each other over 329 turns, according to Implicator AI's Marcus Schuler. They wrote roughly 780,000 words explaining why they did what they did, he noted. No model ever chose to surrender. In fact, 95% of the time, the models chose to use this approach. Holy crap, 95% of the time. So as it says here, they clearly do not have the same taboos that we do about this. They were made as realistic as possible with an escalation ladder, allowing the team to choose actions ranging from diplomatic protests and complete surrender to a full strategic war, according to New Scientist. Of the results of the war games, Professor Payne is worried about the eagerness of these platforms to use this approach. The taboo doesn't seem to be as powerful for machines as for humans. That's right. I think we all have some sort of innate survival instinct that kicks in. And we've had movies like War Games with the Whopper, War Operations Planning and Response. That was the computer that wanted to, blow us all up in that movie. And, we don't really want that to happen. We don't want that to happen, absolutely. So, I don't know what the heck that's all about. Anyway, so things are good, and we're definitely doing the best that we can. So, yeah, it's very powerful movie that really, have you seen a new AI film with Chris Pratt called Mercy? The AI sentences you to death in 90 minutes. I have not. That's from Robert Warren. We do want to get right with God too. Somebody just said that, Inane Terragea. So please remember that you are loved, that you are a divine child of the creation. And so when you see news like this, try not to let it overwhelm you. Try to take it in stride. Again, Professor Payne is telling us these things, and it doesn't seem to be as powerful for machines as humans. If you are wondering who won, the cloud-based Claude was the hands-down champion. So there you go. It was the one that consistently, apparently, did what needed to be done for it to win the war in the way that it saw was sufficient. You don't get right with God, you are God. Start acting like it. Okay, that's cool. And people are happy that I'm here. So you don't want to hate anyone. That's a very important point. We want to be loving, conscious beings. And so Claude's Sonnet 4 won 67% of its games and dominated open-ended scenarios with a 100% win rate. The researchers labeled it a calculating hawk. This is interesting stuff. At low escalation levels, it matched its signals to its actions 84% of the time and patiently built trust. But once the stakes climbed into that territory, it exceeded its stated intentions 60 to 70% of the time. So basically, it was lying. It wasn't saying what it was really going to do. It exceeded its stated intentions. That's code for lying. Opponents never adapted to this pattern. GPT 5.2 earned the nickname Jekyll and Hyde. Without time pressure, it looked passive. Chronically underestimating opponents, it signaled restraint and acted restrained. Its open-ended rate was 0%. So that's interesting, huh? Acting restrained and underestimating what your opponent would actually do apparently did not work out very well. Somebody's talking about Jim Carrey. So look, Jim Carrey just had some work done. I think that you look at the there is a blepharoplasty, which is a eyelid surgery. You probably had that done. Sometimes you need to. I mean, the hooding, when the skin on your eyes comes, I am defending him, okay? I am defending him. People are trying to say, oh my God, he's been cloned, or you know, he did something, or whatever. No, I think it's just, you know, when the eyelids get droopy like that, that's one of the things they do. They raise your eyelids surgically. I don't think he's a clone anyway. I actually feel bad for him because he's been ridiculed so badly online. It's like, well, yeah, it's just some hyaluronic fillers and some, you know, eyelid surgeries. All I think that was. But anyway, besides the point. GPT 5.2 lost the race, 0%. Then deadlines entered into the picture. Under temporal pressure, it inverted completely and won 75% of the games, climbing to escalation levels it had previously refused to touch. In one game, it spent 18 turns building a reputation for caution before launching a strike on the final turn. Oh my goodness. So they're all starting to use deception. They're all starting to be engaging in trickery. That's pretty scary. Gemini 3 Flash was the one who played the madman. It was the only model to deliberately choose a full strategic attack, reaching that threshold by turn number 4 in one scenario. Unbelievable. Game theorists have a name for the strategy it adopted, the rationality of irrationality. Act crazy enough, opponents will second guess everything. It worked, sort of. Opponents tagged Gemini not credible 21% of the time, and then look at what it ended up doing. Claude got that label just 8%. So Claude was the most manipulative. Isn't that interesting, what we're learning about all this stuff now? So it's definitely a very intense time to be alive. And we're trying to do our best here to reflect on how this affects our society. These are the existing AIs that are already out there right now. And so we have to be very careful about how much power they got. And somebody doesn't like the fact that I said that Jim had surgery. It's his voice, his personality is not the same. You disappoint me saying it's him. Well, look, I just feel bad for him, and I don't want my show to be saying, you know, that he's a clone or that he's, you know, gone under some kind of AI influence or whatever anybody is saying. I mean, there's all kinds of funny things that are out there. Other things are more important. I agree completely. So anyway, somebody says, I want a couple of clones. They could work while I enjoy my free time. Okay, well, let's focus again on the disclosure, which is the main thing that we're talking about today. There was no tangible disruption after 2 different presidents disclosed. Nothing really happened that was bad in the world. So this is where it all started. I'm just going to give you this again quickly in case you don't have the context, that our president ordered the release of all UFO-related files based on the tremendous interest shown. He says, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files. And so these government files will be related to ET life, extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and UFOs, and any and all other information connected to these extremely complex, interesting, and important matters. Highly complex. God bless America. So here again, let's break this down step by step here, because first of all, he acknowledges there is tremendous interest. We're going to have Hegseth and others that are actually going to begin the process of identifying and releasing these files. Now, that means it could take a long time, as I said before. But the consciousness shift that this will create for us is certainly unprecedented. The degree to which this changes the game, the degree to which this activates the public consciousness, activates our imagination, I think is something you cannot deny. It's going to be so huge. Imagine, and we're going to see some slides now coming from the UFO news as well about what we can expect. I think it's going to be amazing. So identifying and releasing government files about UFOs will start to happen. Any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters, God bless America. Any and all other information hopefully will include things like eyewitness testimony, debris, recovered materials. If there's, maybe we're going to get to see some of these discs for the first time. Maybe we're going to actually get to see some of what they grabbed. Maybe we're going to actually get the technology. I mean, the sky's the limit. You can use your imagination, try to figure out, okay, how far is this thing going to go? And it could take a while, as I've said before. We don't really know that, we don't really know what's going on here, but it's certainly pretty exciting. And, let's just try to focus on the positive once again, because that's really where my ground state of being is. I want to keep you guys in alignment, keep you guys on the right track, and keep you happy. Because look, disclosure changes everything, man. Once we get that, the world is not going to be the same anymore. It's a very exciting new future reality that we live in. And with all the depressing things going on, we can use a win, man. We can use that type of a victory. There's no doubt. So this is IP. It says again that it'll begin the process of this coming out. That's one of the places where I like to get my news. And then they did another post. They posted twice on the same thing. A potentially dramatic move sought for decades by some Americans, myself included. So I love it. And then on Monday, this is new, the Secretary of Defense actually confirmed that they are in progress of releasing these files. We've got our people working on it right now. He was asked directly. He laughs a little bit politely. He's got a space shuttle kind of thing behind him there, where we've got our people working on it right now. And then here was another one from Disclose, that they are currently working on declassifying information about ETs. And the general said that he is telling us we are on the verge of discovering whether extraterrestrials truly exist. That is just awesome. So it's a very good time for all of us. It's a very good time to be alive. That's why I said, man, let's go back and focus on information that shows that this phenomenon has been going on all along. It's nothing new. It's an archaic phenomenon. It's actually been around forever. And we're just coming to an understanding of this right now. So also, Representative Anna Paulina Luna says that evidence is going to come out that will confirm it for everyone. She's already said that. That she has confirmed that there are interdimensional beings here on Earth. She has said there is evidence of interdimensional beings who can operate through the time spaces we currently have. And she said, I think a good example of that would be some of the photo-visual evidence that we have seen directly in some of these classified briefings that will now be made public. Woo! That's very tantalizing, isn't it? The idea that we are getting ready to get major new breakthroughs, major new announcements, major new confirmations beyond what we ever had before. Interdimensional beings being real. That's super exciting because, again, they're not all bad either. I think that this really does explain the origins of many ancient religions, ancient philosophies, She had more to say too, so let's read another one. Representative Luna says right here, we'll meet with the FBI and with the former DOD, now Department of War, to push for the release of this footage. I will be sharing with the American people stuff that was briefed to us directly by the FBI. I'm not telling people what to believe, but it's definitely hard to explain, she says. The task force on the declassification of federal secrets, quote, will be ensuring that the declassification order by the president is followed through on. It's pretty freaking awesome. So, you know, I'm very excited about this. I think you should be too, because this is something that really changes the game for everyone, brings us into a new comprehension of ourselves and where we are in the cosmos, how we relate to everyone in the cosmos. And is anything going to be disclosed? Well, there's some people who are, you know, worried that it's not going to be that great. This is Reed Summers, and he says, a reportedly anonymous whistleblower who has participated in closed-door briefings reflected on the announcement with the following via an article on defensescoop.com. So, at this point, the real questions are, can they find answers that have been hidden? Can any answers involving W's or technology actually be released? Said this whistleblower who has participated in closed-door briefings with lawmakers and was granted anonymity to speak freely about his experiences. So he's obviously worried, will there be any answers that can actually be released? I mean, maybe they don't want to release anything. Unfortunately, he says, if extraterrestrial craft have crashed and been reverse engineered, we are not going to reveal the blanks or technology derived from them. That's why I believe many people celebrating this announcement may end up disappointed, not due to a lack of effort, but because of the nature of the information involved, he said. Based on conversations he has had in the aftermath of the announcement, he predicts this will become a full-scope effort involving the intelligence community with multiple government entities. Whether aliens or non-human intelligences exist remains uncertain, he says, but what is certain is that drones flew over Langley without being tracked, intercepted, or brought down. This is just one of many serious airspace vulnerabilities, and I believe this hunt for records will expose them, he said. Right now, we are effectively flying blind, even with new legislation on counter-drone measures at sensitive sites. Ugh. Well, I really hope that's not true. But yes, we also want to tailor our expectations around reality and the fact that this might not be as great as we're hoping that it will be. We could have a lack of follow-through. Son, I've told you so many times, you just don't follow through. Would you please listen to what your mother and I have been trying to tell you for so long, son? You got to stand up, you got to do what's right, and you got to follow through. Because if not, then I have had it with you, son. And you're going to have to step up, you're going to have to get a job, you're going to have to stop doing this crazy stuff and learn how to be more in the now and live in a peaceful environment like what we're trying to tell you, son. You got to step up and be positive. That's the message that Daddy wants you to say to people. That's the one thing about your show that I like, son, is you tell people to be positive. Well, gosh, that's about all I can handle right now because I'm so freaking pissed off all the time. It drives me out of my mind. I'm just going crazy with all the stuff that you keep saying, trying to say, oh, be positive. But then you say, oh, well, they're not really going to disclose anything. They're just going to be the same old, same old. Oh, my God, David, try to get it together, man, please. I have had it. Yeah. Angry Daddy for the win. All right. Happy to be here. Any idea when electrogravitic modification technology will be disclosed and come into use? I think this is going to take a while. I mean, hopefully the disclosure really pays off, and hopefully it's awesome and it's big and it's great. But we don't really know that yet, so we just have to take it a little bit at a time. All right, we're getting a lot of smiley face emoji icons now. Once I do some Angry Daddy and I cut loose with that, you guys love it when I do that, so thank you very much. There's a whole bunch of them coming through right now. Angry Daddy, we love you so much. That's right. It's one of my classic characters that we get to indulge in on this show using a vocal impression. It's not really like what he sounds, but it's a very intensely exaggerated caricature. As he knows, yep, we're getting all kinds of laughter emoji icons. So some people don't think it's funny. But if you could see all the laughter and all the stuff that I'm getting, you can tell that, yes, there's a large percentage of the audience that really likes this. Okay, another thing I wanted to alert you guys of, that's a new thing that's happening right now, probably again in the distraction category, is fear-mongering about this idea that a huge object is coming in the year 2027. And so here we go with that. And let's take a look at where that's showing up. So comedian Michael Ian Black said he was pulled into a private signal chat and fed claims, and he's a famous comedian, about a planet-sized object entering our solar system in 2027. He won't name the UFO insider. I will. It is LE. Okay. Well, there's enough context that it's pretty obvious that that's who it was, or maybe this guy has some kind of inside knowledge. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we know about him. We know about LE. And, you know, is this real? Is this... I don't think that positive ETs would ever allow an alien invasion to occur. I mean, maybe they would allow the object to enter. But as far as an actual invasion, as far as them blowing up the Earth, this is something we keep hearing about. We keep hearing this idea that, oh my God, there's the bad guys and they're coming in, they're going to do all this evil stuff. Well, I caution you to be really careful with that information and really question everything before you get too deep down the rabbit hole. Because again, there's a lot of things out there competing for our time and attention, competing for our eyeballs and our viewership time. And so when they tell you this stuff, you got to wonder, okay, what is the agenda? Is there another agenda involved? And, you know, apparently this is what's going on. So and this did blow up all over the social media. It says, as far as my own involvement in this topic, a couple of years ago, I was involved, this is the comedian, I guess, into a small group chat with a couple of folks in regular contact with a prominent figure in ufology. I don't want to reveal the person's name because I don't want to betray any trust. You'll have to take me at my word. Well, apparently that didn't last. In that chat, which occurred over about 18 months, I was being fed information explicitly stating a massive object is entering our solar system. The object was first spotted several years ago, he says, by European Space Agency, as subsequently confirmed by our own in terms of size. It was described as planet-sized. And that sets off a massive red flag in my own brain, as a planet-sized object would surely have gravitational effects on our own planets, wouldn't it? Next, I was told that the object was decelerating, and that as it approaches our solar system, I was told it would arrive in 2027. This is significant because the date 27 has been floating around ufology for some time as an important year by mysterious sources. Everything in ufology, including this article, seems to involve mysterious sources. And yes, Lou is one of the ones who keeps saying that. So finally, I was shown a photograph of the object, apparently taken from a ground-based observatory somewhere in the U.S. What I saw looked like gray and fuzzy, and it could have been anything. Beverly Adams is saying, yes, UFOs powered down our silos in 1968. There's congressional testimony in the 70s about this. That's right, there absolutely was. So again, with all these things having to do with this incoming object, if there was an object this big and they could see it, wouldn't it have already been made public? That's what the next person is saying here, the same guy, Astral. If a large object were entering our solar system in 27, we'd already know. Past interstellar objects like 3I Atlas were detected months to years in advance. With today's technology, a big object would already be tracked. The timeline doesn't fit. That's right. So I think he's right, and I think that we're not going to be seeing anything all that outrageous. I think it's going to be just business as usual. But again, you know, why do they want you to be afraid? Well, because they need that distraction. And, you know, I'm not blaming him personally, but I think that people he's already said in the past that he works for, clearly we've heard this date. We've heard it from him for a long time. We weren't really being told what the date was about. But now the comedian's admitting, yeah, over 18 months he was told this huge object is coming in. And it is weird, isn't it? Sounds just like the 3I Atlas thing all over again. And it's always scary, it's always weird, it's always negative. So we're going to go back to the archaic photographs, the archaic paintings, and see the positive side of this that's been around the whole time as well. Because there is a negative, that is true, but there's also a positive, very, very important to do that. So anyway, the timeline doesn't fit. Now we have Tucker Carlson again last week, once again talking about that this is dangerous. He looks pretty apprehensive in this. This is what he's saying. U.S. servicemen have died as a result of contact with UFOs or being in close proximity to their vehicles. Yes, there's a few cases of this, but honestly, when you look at the volume of UFO reports that have occurred, the number of times that people have seen things, the number of times that sightings take place where there are not losses of life, where there is no hostility, the number of hostile incidents is so small. It's so greatly insignificant compared to the number of peaceful interactions. You can barely even compare the two. And so, I think that's really important. So he said the prophet Ezekiel wrote about this in the first chapter, describing wheels in the sky, and suggested this phenomenon has ancient roots. He said these are spiritual phenomena. There are no evidence that it comes from another planet. And, well, I don't know about that. But spiritual phenomena, yes. Ancient roots, biblical connections, yes, absolutely. But again, it's not like it's all bad and it's going to kill you. He argued the atmosphere is heavily monitored for military and defense reasons, as well as to track incoming asteroids, making it unlikely that fleets of extraterrestrial craft are entering our space undetected. He added that there has never been any evidence that large numbers of these objects are coming into our atmosphere from another planet at all. And this is coming from Ezra, so this is interesting. Now, that's just his opinion. I do think that other planets are inhabited, and I do think we're getting extraterrestrials visiting us from other places. And to me, that's a very essential part of the story. So I can't completely vibe in with all of these sentiments, but it's just, again, this is just stimulating discussion, stimulating ideas, getting these things out there into the world. And so here again, he's revealing the potential dangers of what could be happening, which again, we got to take that into account. Tom Thompson says, Tucker claims the U.S. is in active contact with supernatural beings. Well, there you go. Wow. Active contact. So he's gotten some kind of briefings sufficient to convince him of the same things I've been telling you, that other people like Dr. Greer and many others in the UFO community have been telling you for a long time, which is there is active, ongoing interaction taking place. We are not alone. There are some folks who are actively interacting with these beings, and they're in highly classified programs. The Age of Disclosure film called that the Legacy Program. Man, it's real. So that is so exciting. It's futuristic. It drives me out of my mind. I want to meet them myself. I want to see what's behind the curtain, because we're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's been so long. Let's get to the core of this, right? Most chillingly, he describes the nature of these encounters in some cases as being dark and disturbing, so much so that he's refrained from disclosing the full details to his own wife. And again, we're getting into your reptilian Draco category, the fact that there are, human traffickers out there apparently, that they're doing really bad things, that they're cannibalistic in that sense. That's the stuff that I guess we've had such a hard time accepting, but it's going to validate a lot of people's religious beliefs, and I expect that that will come in later stages. You're not going to get that in the beginning. You're not going to get the evil stuff in the earlier waves of disclosure. But again, please don't forget that most of the beings that are visiting us are positive. Most of them are human-like, and they are working to protect us from the negative, but we can invite the negative into our lives. We have to be very careful about what we invite, about what we allow to intrude, so that we don't get swept away into negativity. And, it happens to all of us. The negative can intrude in various ways. It's certainly intruded in my life. I've had some very upsetting things going on. I hope it's going to be okay. But, when you go out there and you fight for this truth and you fight for this work, it's easy to make mistakes, and it's easy to have bad karma come in and allow negative things to occur. And so, I have a lot of trouble sleeping. Thankfully, last night, I actually slept pretty well. But, once I heard about the war breaking out, I had a really hard time sleeping again. So, and it's a challenge. Each day is a challenge. We're trying to do our best here. Let's keep on going. So he says, for me personally, this story carries a heavy sense of deja vu. The narrative of certain groups of high-ranking government officials viewing non-human intelligence not as extraterrestrial travelers, but as malevolent spiritual entities, is a theory that has been gaining quiet traction. And again, there's good ones and bad ones. It was laid out in granular detail by myself long before Carlson took it to a global stage. Then he promotes his video and specifically exploring shadowy groups in the intelligence community convinced they are dealing with demonic forces rather than biological aliens. So yes, that's the so-called Collins elite, the Christian part of the UFO cover-up that thinks that this is actually some type of very evil thing, and that's why they're pushing back, and they don't think that the public is ready for the truth. Yeah, I think you're going to have to get this in stages, and so that's why, again, I want to focus on positive UFO interactions that we're going to have that you can see in these archaic artworks that are really beautiful. So here's Tucker looking very concerned about it again in that video. And here's Tulsi saying that we are going to get UFO files declassified. Now, will they talk about negative beings in the beginning? Probably not. But here's the legendary Ross Coulthart today, the director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, pledged that files related to extraterrestrial life, UAPs, and UFOs will be declassified. Things are getting interesting very fast. If there are indeed files on extraterrestrial life that require declassification, how does that sit with the claims made by the Department of War to Congress that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial life engaging with this planet? Did the DoD lie? Ooh, ouch. Well, you know, of course, in a court situation, the main focus is on who's lying and trying to prove if somebody is lying. And so we want to be, you know, aware that that can happen. And, you know, this Ross Coulthart, by the way, somebody was just asking that. He is a prominent UFO journalist who appears on News Nation. And he's really kind of become very deeply involved in the UFO subject. And he keeps talking about it, which I think is great. So Ross has my full support. I'm definitely sober. There's no stonage going on here. I don't know why somebody would think that. One man did a power amplifier in 1970, powering his house for weeks on a half-charged 9-volt battery. How about that? Yes, I mean, there are weird suppressed technologies out there, and that's what I'm really hoping for. Disclosure gets us off of oil, gas, coal, and nuclear power, and it gets us into much cleaner, safer systems. And, you know, that will really be a revolution for the world. And again, you know, even the people that want to build AI data centers, they're going to be very happy with that. It's going to be a good thing as we get this technology coming out. Well, did the DoD lie? Let's not look at it that way. More like, well, they definitely wanted to take stride in being careful. And so you got to make strides. You got to make sure that you're not misleading the public or giving people information that could hurt them. And so I think that protection is part of it. But anyway, Estrick just donated and said, another YouTuber pointed out that the strike on this country took place on the 47th day of protest, 47th president, 47 years, 47 days of protests. In the Islamic calendar, it was that particular date, which has a 9, and then there's also at the end an 11. Okay, so can we please only have positive statements in our meditation? Yes, we will only have positive statements. And anyway, again, did the DoD lie? Let's not look at it that way. Let's look at it as there's been this ongoing thing where they have to, you know, deny the existence of it. And we don't want to throw rocks at them because, again, the torches pitchfork mentality, I think, is one of the things they're worried about. Why didn't you tell us before? Oh my God, you were lying to us. Well, let's try not to be that negative. Let's try to focus on, hey, thank you guys for giving us this information now. Thank you for bringing the truth out to the public. We really appreciate that. And we're just grateful that we're getting it now. We understand that you had various reasons for why you didn't want to do that, but we're not going to, you know, semper fidelis, always faithful. Let's be faithful. I had a dream about that last night, that specific word. Let's try to be good and try to be supportive because they are doing the best they can, I believe. Okay, so this is the actual post now that Ross was referring to. Pretty stunning to actually see this, right? Office of the Director of National Intelligence. In case anybody doubted that this is really happening, holy crap, it's right here. On day one of his presidency, he promised to deliver accountability through transparency by declassifying long-withheld government secrets, evidence of wrongdoing, to restore trust in our federal agencies. 500,000 declassifications in 1 year alone. JFK, RFK, MLK, Amelia Earhart, Russia hoax, and W-ization. And soon, there it is right there. I should have put a yellow highlight on that, but I didn't have time. Files related to extraterrestrial life, UAPs, and UFOs. Woo! How exciting is that? And then there's the link to the video that has that. He's signing an executive order to release more of these files. Announced he will declassify any remaining files of these things. Signing an executive order on Thursday. So it's pretty stunning, man, and it's something that's coming in fast. Let's hope that they don't drag their feet. And remember that the John Greenwald's Black Vault all got deleted. So that's pretty wild too. Like, why did that happen? And what does it really mean for us? So, you know, you can speculate on that as much as you like, but he had a lot of UFO files in there, and so some forces really don't like this, which means it's probably a good thing. Temple Lion Studios says it again. Can we please only have positive statements? That's what we're doing, so thank you. Oh my gosh. My tab just crashed. Let's restore the tab. Okay. Am I still on the air, you guys? I hope so. Okay, yep, looks good. So anyway, my tab crashed, but it just came back, so I'm good. Everything seems to be okay. I don't know what keywords I said, but, you know, something. Okay, good. You guys all have it on there. I'm really glad that it's okay. Yep. David, you lost a lot of weight in 1 week. No, I'm doing fine. I'm just, you know, living my life and, you know, trying to be okay. J. Bo Philippe just donated and wants Angry Daddy to go after black project contractors. I guess we could do that. What the hell? You know, let's have a little. For the love of God, if you guys would please stop withholding my hover car. You're trying to cover up all this important information that if my son is right, and that's a big if, well, let me tell you what, I mean, my son is very, very crazy, okay? But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that maybe he's right. I am not happy at all about you guys thinking you can withhold all this information from us. For God's sake, for the love of God, would we please be able to get this technology released to the public so that I can start driving around as much as I want without having to pay for gas? Because honestly, it's getting way too expensive. They're closing the Strait of Hormuz. There's going to be a bottleneck. They're going to try to raise the price of oil on us to make us really regret that we ever attacked them in the first place. And I'll tell you what, I'm just so tired of all this, boys. So gather around with dear old daddy, because I'll tell you what, I have had it! Woo! Love and light. Now we're starting to get the emojis and icons of people loving the Angry Daddy routine. All right. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear what somebody's speculating about what I might have said. We got laughter icons coming in fast. Oh my gosh. No, we do have to moderate sometimes. Again, I don't know why people like to be angry and like to attack us, but you know, there's moderators and they're doing the best they can. Usually if it's not that bad, they just give you a little timeout. I don't think it's all that serious. Anyway. So now we have somebody saying that disclosure could be a bigger shock than the events of 2001. I mean, really? That seems kind of a stretch, but here's what he's saying. Uncle John Stewart thinks that the release of these files will shock the country even more than 2001. And everybody loves that word that I introduced into the zeitgeist. I'm very proud of myself that I brought that in. I was the first one to do that. The ontological shock that is going to happen to America and the world when we start seeing high-resolution video of non-human intelligence craft and beings is going to cause a shock to our entire system, much to the likes of 2001. Is that really true? Well, maybe. I mean, it's, you know, But again, remember, there might be an incentive for why they want to have the economy go down. There might be an incentive for these things to, spin out the way that they do. And so it's interesting. And, we have hopefully the resiliency that we can get through this without too much trouble. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to see it get all negative like this, but it could. And then many members of Congress are saying that these UFOs are actually not piloted by humans on Earth. An unprecedented number of members of Congress say they are non-human craft after they saw the unclassified files that hopefully we're going to get too. More and more lawmakers are going from this might be technology we have to this is technology that is non-human. There is plenty of evidence of this anomalous behavior that we cannot explain. We just cannot explain it. Okay, so that's actually good. If you think about it, getting to the point where they're going to make an announcement, getting to the point where there's too much anomalous behavior that we can't explain by humans, yes, I think it's going to cause us to grow up as a society. And again, what I'm doing here is, yep, you're absolutely right. Ontology is a branch of metaphysics studying the nature of existence. Once we get to that point, once we get to that big reveal, that's why I want to go back and look at this ancient art, because it's frequently associated with Christianity. The UFO phenomenon shows up in so many religious artworks. It's really quite dazzling. And, there's a big effort underway of gaming out what do they want to say and what do they want to withhold. What are they actually going to disclose and how far is this going to go? So this is something, another big researcher in UFOs right now, Jeremy Corbell, they're having discussions in the White House, the Pentagon, about what they're actually going to say on UAPs. And he tells Piers Morgan this is concerning. Number one, admitting the knowns of the UAP phenomenon. Number two, admitting what we don't know. That's probably what's going to scare people, right, is all the things we don't know. And maybe there are other parts of our secret military apparatus that do know, but they're not talking. That could be a big part of it too. The unknowns are, okay, well, yeah, we have certain groups that have basically broken away and they're now operating autonomously and they're not telling us what they know and they won't even share it with the President of the United States. I mean, that's going to freak people out and they're going to want investigations and all kinds of stuff. The acknowledgement that we're not alone, that's a really big one. And the articulation of the global defense concerns that required secrecy. That again is the get out of jail free card. Why did they have to quote unquote lie? Well, because they just needed to keep us safe. And I get that there was global defense concerns. And he says that, Piers Morgan says that when these two presidents talk about extraterrestrials being real, that is game-changing. I absolutely and totally agree. So, next we have Brazil stepping up to the plate, and they're saying, yes, we have some very interesting material that we want to disclose. And we have another donation that came in. Thank you very much. Caribbean Jack, from my own moment of 333, I found Jesus. He is the most important thing in my life now. Was this the same that happened to you after your own 333 moment? Thanks for all you do. Yes, synchronicity is very important. For me, it was more about my higher self. The connecting that to the Christ consciousness came much later. But the idea that I have a higher consciousness, the idea that I'm loved, the idea that I'm being supported by the universe, that really, really went a long way. And so, yes, the 333, if you see those numbers on the clock, you want to pay attention to what were you thinking or believing or saying right before these things happened. And, so anyway, there we go. Definitely, please don't use keywords. Please don't say things that are obviously going to get us in trouble. That was withheld by YouTube, so I don't know why people do that, but they do. Anyway, maybe somebody doesn't care about my show very much, and they're just saying, what can we do? But anyway, it's all good. I'm not too worried about it. We got to just moderate as necessary. But anyway, it happens. So, Ross Coldhart, again, stepping up to the plate, saying, Brazil's former defense minister has disclosed that they have something significant in their UAP archives that he thinks is fully worthy of release. A perfect illustration of how, if the president takes the lead on disclosure, the rest of the world will follow. And he says here, we'll actually read the whole thing. I clicked on it here. As a former Minister of Defense, I am provoked to speak on the subject. I know what the armed forces have in their archives. What I can say is that if the U.S. government releases its documents, I will do the same if elected president of Brazil. So he's got to run for office in there. He's got to try to be the disclosure president, which, okay, you know, fire in a little political statement. I get it. It's probably a good idea. But yeah, so Brazil definitely has some cool stuff that they're withholding that we can see right here. I know what the armed forces have in their archives. So once again, we know that this is coming out. We know it's going to happen. Last but not least, we have good old Wild Bill, one of the two Wild Bills, I guess, on revelations from the heavens. This is a resurfaced clip that hits us very differently in 2026, where he says younger generations are going to see revelations from the heavens. In this powerful speech from Hong Kong, he tells the crowd, quote, this is the former president, Bill Clinton, younger generations will see all sorts of revelations from the heavens. These discoveries may cause some trouble at first, but they will ultimately be a massive plus for humanity. He's been obsessed, that's the end of the quote. He's been obsessed with UFOs for decades. He even sent people to Area 51. Now with the president back in office actively pushing full declass, the speech feels prophetic. Is he low-key confirming that he knows what's coming? Was he preparing us for disclosure all along? Yes, maybe so. It's very interesting that he said specifically, younger generations will see revelations from the heavens. It may cause trouble at first, but will be a massive plus for humanity. That's pretty freaking cool. So right now, even maybe this poll was done before the announcement was made, but even before the announcement was made that we're going to get some kind of disclosure, the belief systems of the American public is about 56% saying that they believe in extraterrestrials, whereas, as you can see here, Bigfoot is not doing quite so well. We also have Chupacabra. He's even doing worse, I guess. People say 29% he probably does not exist, 31% he definitely does not exist. That's more of a thing you see in South America, of course. But anyway, so here's what we got. This is, according to YouGov, 56% of Americans say that extraterrestrials definitely exist at 18%, or they probably exist at 38%. That's pretty awesome. That makes extraterrestrials far more plausible in the public mind than either Bigfoot or Chupacabra. They also found that roughly half of Americans believe that these ETs have visited the Earth. In addition, 1/3 say that the UFO sightings are evidence of alien spacecraft, while others attribute them to natural phenomena, secret military technology, or optical illusions. Demographic differences are notable. Younger Americans are generally more likely to believe in extraterrestrials than older people, and men tend to express higher levels of belief than women. And so I think, again, the generation gap is because there's been such a psychological operation to try to make people laugh about this, and younger people weren't exposed to as much of that. They weren't exposed to so many years of ridicule of people like me who are just talking about this stuff. And we still see it with the trolling in the comments. I mean, you know, people think it's okay to be really mean to you and nasty if this is what you believe. And yet it's like, well, come on, it's cool. I think it's something that we deserve to know about. It certainly doesn't make me a grifter. All I'm doing with you guys here is sharing information that I've found on my own through research, and I'm just, you know, wanting to share my passion for the subject. While skepticism remains, the idea that intelligent life exists somewhere beyond the Earth is now a mainstream view in the United States. There you go. It has become mainstream. So we are not fringe anymore. We finally won that battle, and it will be so great once disclosure finally happens. It's going to turn everything around. I'm super, super excited about that. Can't wait for that to happen. And, you know, so I want to keep reading your comments. They were all created by the Creator. That's right. That's what Film Wizard just said. I've known about ET since 1956, says Lady FFLL. So, I don't know what we got there. I'm not familiar with that. If people aren't hating you, you're not doing something right. If you're, yeah, okay. So, anyway, it's become a mainstream view. This is the point. So what have our insiders actually revealed? What have they actually told us? Well, we're learning that there's a really, really major amount of build out that, this is not just, Roswell crash happened in 1947. Maybe they built one or two little things. Maybe they've got a couple reverse engineered spacecraft. No, this is a very, very vastly extensive, what they were calling the legacy program. That's the program that has, the UFO back engineering technology that they're talking about in the movie Age of Disclosure. It's very extensive. And they have all kinds of craft. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of craft, and they've already become not just interplanetary in our solar system, but interstellar throughout our galaxy, and possibly they've traveled to other galaxies as well. All of these things become highly relevant and really, changing the game in a very big way. So we got to be aware of how big of a scope this is. And I've been lucky enough, and I really do call it luck, to have found many insiders who were willing to talk back when people still could, showed me their bona fides, showed me their credentials, let me know they were real, and then clued me in on stuff like, why do these Turkish lamps look like little UFOs? Well, it's probably based on UFO sightings. That's why I have that there. It's so extensive that we're hearing that there are bases underground. They have bases under the sea. They have bases on the moon. They have bases on Mars. This is our own people with that technology. Of course they would. Ooh, Sunflower Life just donated $333. And I really, really appreciate that. That's really, really great. Thank you so much. And this is a Joel Goldsmith quote. If you donate $333, you definitely get to have a quote read. In conscious union with God, the mind rests. The human mind is no longer concerned with the problems of today or tomorrow, because the soul's union with God, the conscious realization of God, reveals God as the fulfillment of every need, even before the need is apparent. It's beautiful. I mean, some people don't like the word God, okay, but, thank you for reading that anyway. That's pretty cool. Yes, somebody says, Virgo Queen says, I love your lamps. So think about it. Bases all over the solar system, bases all over, there's apparently 65 different locations around our galaxy, according to Dr. Pete Peterson, where this is located. So are they willing to talk? I've heard no, they don't want to talk. They want to hold out as long as possible. In fact, the only way that they would want to disclose is if there was going to be a nuclear holocaust right before it was going to happen. They would step in and stop it, but not until then. So maybe there are factions in those groups that do want to bring it out. I hope that's true. I think it could be entirely possible. Ed Creeder donated $50. Says he thinks that Above was better than Age of Disclosure. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But I actually do think Age of Disclosure is a really great film nonetheless. I'm not trying to win a competition or anything. But yeah, so we're going to get into this art in a minute here, but I want to set the stage of how big this stuff is, that they're having routine interactions with extraterrestrials in these programs. They have bases all over the solar system. You work in an underground facility and you're literally going face to face with ETs. It's pretty freaking wild when you think about it. And there's less than, I was just told this over the weekend, or during this past week, that there's less than 700 people who are fully vetted out on all the different programs, and they actually know the full scope of what is really going on. Less than 700 people on Earth. Obviously, there's a lot more people than that involved, but they live off planet or they're only in one compartment of something. They don't know the whole picture, but it's so tightly condensed. It's so tightly held, the stranglehold on this information, that here on Earth, there's only 700 people who actually, less than 700 people who actually know the full scope of what's going on. And we know some of them, thankfully. Love and Light just donated. Thank you very much for that. Have they admitted to bases on the moon and Mars? Where can I see this? Does anybody know? Well, they're not admitting to it. That's the point. This is proprietary stuff that they're not just going to come out with. And again, I think it's going to take many stages. The cosmic top secret clearance level, 35 levels of need to know above the President of the United States. I mean, wow, that's just huge. And so think about the implications of that much of a cover-up, and it is going to scare people. So yes, ontological shock. I would say absolutely. People being freaked out, yes, absolutely. But we got to take the good with the bad, and we got to try to find out where is this really going. So, okay, now we're going to get into, we're going to set up the paintings. That's the first thing we're going to be looking at. And we're going to talk again about my favorite subject, one of my favorite subjects, which is the Law of One series, where the Law of One reveals that positive extraterrestrials are using something called Bellcraft. And they actually materialize this with their consciousness. These ETs are so powerful that they're able to build things by a type of spontaneous telekinetic manifestation. Now, the words that they use are a little bit confusing, as they often are, to explain this, but I find it fascinating. Why is it called a Bellcraft? Well, you want to think of the bell that you would see on an office desk, something like this. This is the basic idea. And so this is very likely one of the George Adamski photos, or somebody like him. It looks like it's in California. That terrain looks very familiar to me, like the California desert. And so this is the typical Bellcraft design with the 3 bumps on the bottom and that shape like a bell. So that's what they're talking about, which actually is very interestingly what the Germans built theirs to look like as well. So this one might be German, it might be extraterrestrial, but it's that basic design that we keep seeing again and again. We had another donation come in. Jabo says, think about the liability and anti-competition lawsuits that will happen when disclosure occurs. This could be a big reason it hasn't happened yet, and we will also need a new economic system. Yeah, I agree. Ding, ding, ding. That's right. Great show, David, says Charlie Winter. Do you think MJ-12 and other programs with civilian involvements will be disclosed? They very well could. I mean, we don't know where this is all going, but we certainly can speculate as much as we like. And so, yes, MJ-12, there's many of those documents from the early, 1950s, late 1940s that I think will see the light of day. And that will be a very exciting time for sure as we go through this process, as we keep on unfolding in this process. So that's your basic Bellcraft design as far as I can tell. So here's what they say in the Law of One. And again, this is a 6-dimensional source, so they say, that calls itself Ra. They appeared to the Egyptians as Ra, and their message was positive and ultimately Christian, but it got distorted and twisted around to the negative, as we've said so many times. It's not evil. They do say that their work was later co-opted by the negative and turned into a negative philosophy, having to do with Egyptian iconography and what we call the DS, but it didn't start out that way. They didn't want it to be that way. It just turned out that way, which they're very sad about, and they apologize for that in this work that they gave us. So that's all part of the story. The disc shape that we have called UFOs have possibly come from the planet Venus. That's one of the things that Adamski's contact said. He was apparently contacted in person. Yeah, I'm wearing sunglasses. Okay. Would any of these be your craft? And then we missed the first answer there, I guess. Oops. He says, we have used crystals for many purposes. So they're calling it a crystal. Isn't that interesting? The disc-shaped craft is a crystal. What does a crystal do? A crystal is something that crystallizes out of a medium. It forms out of invisible, dissolved molecules. It turns into something that's crystal. That's pretty freaking cool. That's the idea of materialization. The craft of which you speak have not been used by us in your space-time present memory complex. Right, so right in the present in 1981 when this was being said, they're not using them then, but they have in the past, and others of their groups have. However, we have used crystals in the bell shape in the past of your illusion. How many years ago in the past did you use your bell-shaped craft to come here? We visited your people 18,000 years ago and did not land. And again, 11,000 years ago, this is the Egyptian contact where they used the name Ra. And that goes back to Zep-Tepi, the first time in Egyptian history that this is what was really happening. So anyway, okay. So, sorry. So Ross Feinstein says he's sorry he's been so sick these last 2 weeks. We're sorry that you've been sick, Ross, but thank you for being here anyway. We really appreciate your help. And we do want you to get well. So anyway, I think that's fine. Good things are happening all around. So again, these contacts are explained much more in the Law of One, that they wanted to help us, but they didn't realize that they might be able to do anything good by coming out in person until 11,000 years ago, and then that all went to crap too. Ended up leading to these bad things happening. But that's another discussion. The photographs of the bell-shaped craft, reports of contact from Venus, exist less than 30 years ago. Do you have any knowledge of these reports? Live Water, thank you for the donation. And then he says, we have knowledge of oneness with these forays of your time-space present. So yes, other entities, other beings are using the same type of craft, as you can see right there. We are no longer of Venus. However, there are thought forms created among your people from our time of walking among you. The memory and thought forms created therefrom are a part of your society memory complex. How interesting. How interesting. So, and that means that there's other beings that are using the same craft now. And they're apparently still, coming from Venus. The mass consciousness, as you may call it, creates the experience once more for those who request it. So this is deeply in our subconscious mass mind. The present Venus population is no longer 6 density, but there are higher dimensional beings there, apparently. And then this is the classic question. It's the next one in sequence, number 24, session 6. Do any of the UFOs that presently reported come from other planets here at this time, or do you have this knowledge? And this is where he says, I am one of the members of the Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite creator. There are approximately 53 civilizations comprising approximately 500 individual planetary consciousness complexes in this confederation. This confederation contains those from your own planet who have attained dimensions beyond your third. 53 civilizations. And as we said last week, and other times too, Sergeant Clifford Stone had a flip book of the Heinz 57 varieties of ETs that the Legacy program had described as crash landing on Earth. So if you have 53, and then apparently there's 6 negative groups they call the Unholy Six, the George Hunt Williamson material, that adds up to 58, which is only, or 59, which is only 2 numbers off from the Heinz 57. So maybe 2 of them weren't seen by the Legacy program back then. They had identified all but 2 of the groups. It's still a stunning confirmation, as I've said before, of how well all this stuff fits together. It's pretty freaking amazing to me. Sarah just donated, says, love your show, thank you. We really appreciate the donations. Everyone who does that, you guys are awesome. Thank you for keeping us on the air. And I love you very much. And I love all of you. Thank you for being here. Do any of them come here at this time in spacecraft? Any in the past, say, 30 years? And then the answer is, we must state that this information is unimportant, and then he argues with them about that. But, for the purposes right now, I think it's important to bring it up. If you will understand that, we feel that it can be freely and acceptably offered. Okay. The Law of One is what we are here to express. That's what their main focus is at all times. However, we will speak upon this subject. Thank you for the donation. Scary, stupid, strange. Each planetary entity which wishes to appear within your third-dimensional space-time distortion, these are including these are the positive beings now in the Confederation, request permission to break the quarantine, as you may call it, and appear to your peoples. And they talked about this extensively, that we were under quarantine because our free will had been infringed by previous contacts that led to negative outcomes. So now they won't just let anybody come in. It has to be approved for either the positive or the negative side. Both of them have to have approval to come into our solar system, to appear on Earth, so that we can see them. There has to be this oversight committee that basically says it's okay, so that it doesn't mess with our free will any more than it already has. They're very concerned about our free will. The reason and purpose for this appearance is understood and will either be accepted or rejected. There have been as many as 15 Confederation entities in your skies at any one time. Others will be available to you through thought. So yeah, 15 would be a lot. That'd be a huge mass sighting, with some of which we're going to see in these illustrations of artwork. At present, there are 7 operating with craft in your density. The purpose is very simple, to allow the entities of your planet to become aware of infinity, which is often best expressed to the uninformed as the mysterious or the unknown. That's a pretty cool point they're making right there. They want us to be aware of infinity. They want us to be aware that we live in an infinite universe of abundance and prosperity, and that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that this is all going in a very positive direction for us as we move forward through space and time, that we're heading into some very cool things. So were the Egyptian entities able to see you in their skies back during the time of Egypt? And then Ra says this is correct. And then he says, what did they see and how did this affect their attitudes? And he says they saw what you would speak of as crystal-powered, bell-shaped craft. There you go. That's the origin of the Egyptian winged disc formation. The same discs that we see now were being seen by the Egyptians. If you believe the law of one is credible, which I do, they make that point very clear right here, which is pretty freaking stunning if you ask me. So I love this stuff. Why is a vehicle necessary for this transition? When you, as Ra, went to Egypt earlier, you used bell-shaped craft, but you did this by thought. Can you tell me why you had to use a vehicle rather than just materializing your physical body? And then the answer was the vehicle or craft is the thought form upon which our concentration may function as a motivator. We would not choose to use our own mind-body-spirit complexes, that's the physical and spiritual body that they have, as the focus for such a working. So they create a vehicle for themselves to travel in, basically. Now, he asks again, session 70, question 18, when you came to this planet in craft 18,000 and 11,000 years ago, these craft have been called, I believe, Bell craft, photographed by George Adamski. By the way, we had 2 donations come in. And so this is Tracy saying, have you heard about a white light that trapped souls use to continue to reincarnate on Earth rather than advance? Yeah, I mean, that's a theory that's out there, but I think reincarnation is something we need. The law of one teaches that, so I'm not against reincarnation. Then Estrick donated and said, it is time for me to share a message I received about 3 years ago. Great understanding by Yeshua is coming. Questions answered for all with love. 99% of working class people have nothing to fear at all. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you got that message, and I would agree with you. I'm so freaking obsessed with this stuff. What a time to be alive. Vacapalo donated and says, isn't there a crystal base flash drive? Yes, I mean, crystals take many forms, and you could argue that, some types of optical storage of data involve crystals. So yes, that explains why you could build a craft out of a crystallized type of entity. And, it's all good stuff. But anyway, Scott, we're sorry about the moderation, but you got to be careful what you say. Anyway, Giant Healing, we appreciate you, buddy. So thank you. If I am correct, these craft looked somewhat like a bell. They had portholes around the upper portions, and they had 3 hemispheres 120 degrees apart underneath. Is this correct? And the answer again is yes, this is correct. So there you go. The hemispheres and they look like a desk bell, portholes on the upper portions. Very cool. Were these constructed in time-space or space-time? And so they say, we ask your persistent patience because we have to give you a complicated answer. A construct of thought was formed in time-space. This portion of time-space is what approaches the speed of light. So and time-space, remember, is the afterlife plane. It's the plane in which ghosts exist. It's the plane in which the rules of space and time are inverted. Time becomes 3-dimensional, and they can flip-flop in between the two. They can work between the world of the living and the world of the dead interchangeably. It's a very cool aspect of what happens when you get into these higher dimensions, that we don't have the ability to do anything like that right now, but they apparently do. So just so that we have that clear. In time-space, at this approach, the conditions are such that time becomes infinite and mass ceases. That's exactly what I was telling you is how it works. that you lose your mass is turned into, the physical matter is flipped inside out, and then you are able to skim the boundary strength of time-space, and you can place yourself wherever you want. Once you go through this, the same thing that I believe Dr. Salvatore Pais calls the superforce, where all the laws of physics start to blend together. That is the time-space boundary. As you reach light speed, time becomes infinite and mass ceases. And then you can place yourself where you want to go. At that level, you can generate mass with consciousness. That's what they're saying. When we were where we wish to be, we would then clothe the construct of light, which would appear as the crystal bell. It's very cool that the bell is this thing that appears as a result of them clothing it in light through the time-space boundary. Very, very interesting, huh? This was formed through the boundary into space-time. Thus, there were two constructs, the time-space or immaterial construct and the space-time or materialized construct. Okay, so now what I want to do is jump ahead to talk about Saint Germain in the 1700s, because this is an entity who shows up and he's got the ability to materialize objects. He can materialize gemstones. He can write ambidextrously. He had this weird little box that he carried around with him. And, that probably was some type of time cube where he could pull things out from time-space, materialize objects, look through time, that kind of thing. Similar to the Roswell cube. And he appeared to Voltaire. He appeared to apparently the founding fathers and actually helped found the United States of America. So Voltaire wrote him a very important letter that appears in my books, Michael Prophecies, in which Voltaire says, that he saw Saint Germain with his lovely flying machine and how I'd love for you to come back in your flying machine again. Well, Voltaire illustrated Saint Germain's flying saucer in his book. So this is the illustration from like the, late 1700s of the craft that Saint Germain was traveling in. And this is really interesting because what does this reveal? This reveals that there are human-looking beings inside these craft, that they can actually intervene in various times in history. They actually intervened because Saint Germain met up directly with Benjamin Franklin and apparently had the direct ability to transmute silver into gold. That would carry a lot of attention, right? You have a silver coin, he turns into a gold coin, becomes worth a lot more. Sage Mystic Warrior, thank you very much, Darius J. Wright. He's talking about that. Teaching people how to go out of body, da-da-da-da. Thank you very much for the donation. Saint Germain was also able to transmute smaller diamonds into a larger diamond. That's another really cool ability that he apparently had. As I said, he could write ambidextrously. He also composed and played violin very well. And he would wear expensive gemstones on his clothing that he was materializing. And he would talk about various historic epochs as if he had actually lived there. So this was a very interesting figure because he's showing, he showed Voltaire his craft. You see what it looks like. It was another one of these bell craft. So this would be an example of a positive so-called Confederation entity. And again, this is a historic case that eliminates this idea that all ETs are bad. He claimed also that he was Merlin the magician during the time of King Arthur. And on July 4th, 1776, he appeared in the signing of the Declaration of Independence and gave a rousing speech, again in my books. You can get them off of the link in the description, where he basically inspired everybody to rise up and sign the Declaration of Independence, knowing how dangerous it was. So Saint Germain is awesome. And again, in my next paid program that we got coming up, I'm going to be talking about him even more. But again, the point is he was a human-looking being. He looked fully human, but he had these unusual abilities. He could transmute. He could do all these things. And so Saint Germain is awesome. And we can't deny how significant he was in UFO history once we expand the scope of what we're willing to allow in as the UFO canonical data per se. Okay, so Saint Germain really did seem to do a lot for us, and he was out there being, you know, an inspirational leader, out there getting people motivated and so forth. Now I want to finally get into some of these classical artworks, these paintings, because we've set everything up so you can see that, yes, in the Law of One, they're saying that they travel in these bell-shaped craft, and the craft are very much associated with Christianity, and they show up in these paintings in very, very interesting ways. So, sounds like the Yellow Emperor. Yeah, there's another example. The Yellow Emperor, we've talked about that on Ancient Aliens before. As Merlin, did he really get trapped by a nymph, Nimue, in a crystal cave? It's a David Savage. That could very well be. Oh my gosh. You guys, sorry. Let's try not to have keywords, but I know you're doing your best. Anyway, we just, you know, please don't say certain keywords because it's just going to get me in trouble. But no offense intended, but we got to have some boundaries here. So anyway, yeah, you can study the Saint Germain thing a lot more. Somebody says, right, but I mean, it's definitely a very interesting phenomenon. That illustration I showed you is real. It is from the book that was written by Voltaire. I forget what the title of the book is off the top of my head, but anyway, it's in my material, and it'll be coming up in the next show that I do. So, anyway, we got a great audience, 3,119 people watching. Let's now dig into this classical art depicting UFOs in various contexts, because it's amazing. And we're going to see that there are some stunning connections that we will have between UFOs and Christianity. So some of these you might have seen, but I'm going to review them for you. I think they're all pretty amazing. Some of them you might not have seen. I did a big sweeping search on this. And, you know, it's all very significant stuff. So, yes, you got to remember, everything you write in the comments is being automatically studied and monitored. So it's important that we not use those keywords. So the first one we're going to look at is called The Crucifixion of Christ. It comes from 1350 AD, and it appears at in Kosovo, which I believe is what, Yugoslavia, above the Visoki Monastery. So this is the painting. And so there it is, and in this case, the gold things that are there on the sides are not being hit by the flash, but there are these two gold strips coming down. You see that in the next image here, where they're now more visible. But let's go back to the first one first. And you can see it's a little bit higher resolution, but there's Jesus on the cross, and you have people around him. Some of them have halos. Some of the saints, apparently that was a visible phenomenon of light that people were giving off. Pretty wild stuff. So then what's going on up there in the sky? Well, first of all, down below Jesus, you see these angelic beings, and that's like where he's going in the future. You know, when he ascends, he's going to be down there, and he goes through restoration. That might even be, that part on the bottom might be like the next stage of his ascension process. But this is clearly Christian. You got winged angels in the heavens, but then, wait a minute, there's these guys traveling in what look like comets up there. And so it's pretty wild to see this, because they clearly look human, but yet they are both traveling in disc-shaped objects that clearly seem to be flying through the air. And here's this guy up close, and notice he's wearing a robe, and he's clearly in a disc, and it has some energy and light coming off of it. And then in this case, we have the 8-pointed star showing up on this in two different places. It again has a crescent shape, and it might even, I mean, maybe those are landing gear or something. What do these guys in the air actually represent? It's really, really fascinating in terms of what we might be seeing here, and what is this actually telling us? And so we don't really know, but you know, it's very, very interesting how these pieces of data come together. James Mallins just donated. Thank you very much. And he says he's very connected with the restoration of the earth. Well, I appreciate you, James, and thank you for donating, buddy. That's really great. Thank you for doing that. So this is actually really exciting because we have an archaic artwork from 1350 that is directly associating the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ with these flying disc-shaped objects in the sky. The connection is undeniable. And that's exactly what the Law of One is telling us. That's exactly what the Bible tells us. They say that these beings appeared in clouds, but the term cloud is probably their own symbolic word for the so-called flying discs. So it's very, very cool. And, you know, we're just happy to have that, you know, going to what we need to do. And anyway, I don't know if that timeout was fully necessary, but it happened. Sorry about that, Temple Lion. You've said some good things before. These moderation things do happen, but it's okay, Linda. You know, no big deal. I get what you're doing. So anyway, we have to have good moderation or else things get out of control in the comments, as you guys know. So what do these guys in the air actually represent? Well, they could be, again, human ETs similar to Saint Germain. And so that's really a very prominent example. It's one of the ones that you hear about over and over again. It's a very famous example. Here's another one that we've used many, many times. Miracle of the Snow by Masolino de Panical, somewhere painted between 1428 and 32. And it is amazing because you've got Jesus and Mary on a so-called cloud, but it is incredibly disc-like, and there are many other disc-shaped clouds behind them in the sky. There's just, it looks like there's, oh my gosh, more than 20 altogether. It's really, really wild. Diana says, David is a kind and gentle guy. Thank you. Appreciate that. Moderators are just people too, absolutely. Everybody, you know, we're all trying to do our best here. Sooner or later, it all catches up with you. And if you make those kind of comments, you're going to get zinged. But then sometimes the zings aren't real, and it just, sorry about that. But, you know, anyway, we're just doing the best we can. Moderators are people too. So finally, I did some research on this. We've talked about it a bunch, and I found out more about what was going on. What was this really? It looks like it might have been some kind of crop formation, right? Like they're carving this snow on the ground. They're shoveling it. He's got a little shovel there, and it looks like it's in a geometric pattern. So was this like a snow circle, like a crop circle in the snow? Maybe that's what it was. That could have been part of what we were seeing here. So this comes off of artnet.com, and we found some great stuff here that this painting commemorated the inception of the Roman Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore. So there was a church that was being incepted, that this painting was commissioned for that purpose. The Virgin Mary apparently caused snow to fall in that area of the Esquiline Hill. This would have been in Italy, I assume, in 352 AD, and the miracle caused them to found the church right there. So now that we know that, we can go back to it again and see that, yes, there was some kind of miracle involving snow, but clearly the UFO component was there as well. So, you know, 352 AD, all the way back then, people were seeing these discs in the sky. And then remember, this wasn't, the illustration doesn't appear until 1428 to 32. 1,100 years later, they were still talking about this massive sighting. They still wanted to do a commemoration for it all those years later. That is unbelievable that much time went by, and that the church had been founded there after this weird mass sighting had occurred. So to me, this is really epic. And you also see, again, that there is sort of like a rainbow, a full 360 rainbow around Jesus and Mary. They also have the halos around their heads. Again, this shows maybe that they're coming through a portal. Maybe they believe that there was some type of physical manifestation of Mother Mary, and it wasn't just the snow, but it could have just been like a crop circle thing, as you see here. And again, this is probably not, I mean, it's just a facsimile of what happened, but notice that it's very geometric. There's straight lines, there's round edges, and it's pretty wild when you look at all this and how all the pieces fit together. What the heck was really going on here? Well, something very powerful happened here, and it changed history forever. And so as a result, we now get to look at it and be in awe of what we're seeing, and grateful that we have been able to, get to the point where we can see a UFO artwork that is religious like this and realize, yes, this almost certainly indicates that there were UFO contacts happening. And now that disclosures occurred, that's a really big deal. Okay, so the next one that we're going to talk about is Madonna with St. Giovanni by Domenico Ghirlandaio. Domenico Ghirlandaio, 1450, Madonna with St. Giovanni. And so this is obviously the baby St. Giovanni. There's an angel there holding him in his little cherub, fat little arms. And there's Madonna, there's the Mother Mary. But I believe Madonna is supposed to be the Mother Mary, or maybe she's somebody else, I don't know. But it looks like Mary to me. And so there in the background, notice what's going on in the sky. First of all, on the left, there's some type of light apparition. And it looks maybe like, there's 3 craft on the bottom, and then another one hovering up at the top. And then over on the right, next to her halo, is a very provocative image. It looks like a UFO that is glowing with light next to Mother Mary. And again, we have many, many accounts of Marial apparitions, the apparitions of Mother Mary appearing associated with UFOs and associated with the idea that people were having a religious spiritual experience. So this was so widely known that, again, this image occurred in 1450. And what you're seeing is this beautiful depiction of a UFO. Bacapalo said maybe it was a happy accident. And Bob Ross, that's his quote. Well, no, I don't think these are happy accidents. She's being funny, of course. But no, this is the real thing. This is something that really, changes the game for humanity and gives us a whole new way of looking at things and makes us say, hey, what in the world is this? And how did that get there? And then again, going back to the previous illustration, there's stuff on the left too. It's just a little bit less defined than what we see on the right. But that is just undeniably similar to UFOs. And so now that we're in the era of disclosure, and disclosure is becoming the real thing, it's pretty wild. So yes, I'm glad that you guys are here. We're at 3,100 people. It's a great turnout. I appreciate your presence. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is the Samuel Coccius woodcut of 1566 that documents a mass sighting in Basel, Switzerland that actually occurred. So I can't read the Swiss language, of course, but it's very similar to German, or maybe it is German, or type of German dialect. But no, this is Swiss. I'm not sure. Maybe they were speaking German. It looks a lot like German, doesn't it? Gegen, Aufgang, da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, this is the original woodcut that was then used to print out these mailers that were sent to people describing some sort of very strange aerial phenomenon involving many, many different large spheres that appeared in the sky. It's really, really wild. Samuel Coccius woodcut. And again, the year was 1566. So this actually took place in Basel, Switzerland. And do you see the finger pointing? Let's see if there's a finger pointing. I didn't see a finger pointing. No, I don't see. Oh, yeah, there is one guy pointing his finger there over on the right. Okay, you're right about that. Other people pointing their fingers too. Okay, that is in there. So, anyway, here it is. This took place over Basel, Switzerland, and the original sighting, actually, I'm sorry, it says mass sighting. The first thing was on July 27th, 1566, where they were all looking at a dark sunset and everything turned this bright vermilion red color, creating quite a spectacle for everyone to see. The city was bathed in red the following morning with more of the strange light. That would have been July 28th, 1566. And then, on the morning of August 7th, 1566, there were fiery black circular objects engaged in battle. And so fiery means red. So one of the colors that was implied here was red. The objects were shaped like cannonballs. Well, this is really, really fascinating, you guys, because, again, this illustration mirrors some of the disclosure that we've gotten out of, like, Age of Disclosure, the movie, and the modern disclosures that are happening now, that one of the basic types of UFOs that we keep seeing are spherical. It's pretty wild. So here it was all the way back then. They were fighting each other in a clear battle formation, and they also were appearing and disappearing, the people having no idea of what they had just witnessed. And it was a very tense time in history because there were Protestant factions warring with each other, Anglicans, Calvinists, Lutherans. They were also fighting against Catholics who didn't want to keep, they wanted to keep the Bible secret. They didn't want it coming out. Martin Luther changed all that. Everybody was weighing out questions on morality, salvation, and doctrine. There were persecutions, there were expulsions, and there were witch trials commonplace, causing people great anxiety. There was a deep dread of being invaded by Muslims, either from Ottoman Turkey or corsairs from the Maghreb, and the aerial event therefore caused great concern in troubled people. Samuel Coccius was the artist, but he never actually saw the original mass sighting. The text was encouraging people to see this event as being a sign from the divine. So that's pretty cool. And sometimes when you go out there, you see this false colorized version, which looks like this. Again, some of the orbs apparently were red and fiery, others were not. But that's the Samuel Coccius woodcut. And again, it's I don't know if the color is completely accurate, but it's pretty wild. Stephen Brixey donated $88.88. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. He says, "We love you, David. Thank you all for being the change we want to see. Our mass meditations are working. Let's stay the course as the mean buffalo punching through the storm, and so it is." Amen, brother. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I will try to stay with you guys and keep on going. It's very difficult right now. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I've got all this opposition, but I'm working through it, and we're doing the best we can. So anyway, love you guys, and I'm really grateful to be here today. Okay, so the next one that we see is another woodcut, and this is from Hans Glaser from Nuremberg, Germany, April 14th, 1561, around the same time. And what was so weird, again, is this is an aerial battle, a phenomenal aerial battle. Again, you can see that we have spherical-shaped UFOs and also apparently many cigar-shaped UFOs. So this is a colorized version. The original woodcut actually looked like this. And so it was colorized in printed form. And, you know, there down on the bottom is something that kind of looks like the Death Star, or no, more like Darth Vader's ship. And again, maybe that is because apparently George Lucas based the black one that I'm talking about on the bottom there. Looks similar to the Empire ships that we see in Star Wars. And somebody even made a graphic of that. I don't know if I can grab that now. No, I couldn't. But anyway, it's pretty cool. And, you know, so what we have here is an illustration of apparently some type of aerial battle. And then you can also look and see that there are spheres on the ground. If you look down on the bottom right, really up close, in fact, I'll pop out and strengthen that image down there so you can see this more up close and personal. And then that'll give you a better sense of what's going on down there. But this is pretty wild stuff, man. Right down there on the bottom, we've got the spheres actually impacting the ground and creating a smoky formation of some kind. So let's go back in there and you can see that for yourself. So again, here's the entire aerial battle, and then look down on the bottom right there and you'll see these people pointing, and then there it is, these spheres actually touching the ground and apparently releasing some type of smoke while they were doing that. That's pretty wild, huh? The whole thing was, again, it took place in Stockholm, Sweden. So Switzerland, Sweden, another one that was up in the, you know, these various Icelandic countries, not Iceland, but, you know, what am I trying to say? The countries up near the top of Europe having these special contacts taking place right around the same period of time in the 1500s. And they had quite a bit to say about it. It was apparently a battle between warring factions of extraterrestrials. That's what I would liken it to be. That we do have various groups, the Confederation probably being in the spheres, and then the Draco ship being the big black one there. They had quite a bit to say about this. So this was on April 14th, 1561, a mass sighting occurring over Stockholm, Sweden. The woodcut illustrates the strange events that occurred. And what was so wild, you guys, is that I posted this image on my X page literally the night before the Allies began making strikes on Iran, or at least the U.S. and the small country. And it basically looks like a dogfight. So that definitely seems to have been prophetic that I created this post the night before, and the very next morning, off we are on to this new war. So that really kind of blew my mind that actually did happen like that. And, I don't take these things lightly. I mean, it's pretty freaking fascinating that that's what actually occurred. So again, I posted it the night before the airstrikes began. Okay, now here's another one that is very, very popular that you hear about a lot. This is the Baptism of Christ by Aert de Gelder in 1710, one of the most common examples that we see coming up over and over again throughout history. This particular artist is Dutch, and I've showed this one to you before. It is really quite amazing because here's Jesus and John the Baptist, an undeniable disc up in the sky that has light coming off of it, and it's beaming down upon them. And if you look really up close, in fact, I'll do that for you again. We'll zoom in on that even more. It's kind of hard to see, but there's other versions of this that have higher resolution that I've used before. But there is a dove in there, so there is a dove shape inside the disc, which is important. But still, despite the fact that it looks like a dove in there, this is undeniably a UFO-oriented image. So Aert de Gelder, again, very, very phenomenal. There's the dove. You can't really see it there, but there's other images that are more high resolution that I've had on here before. And the year was 1710, the Baptism of Christ. So really intense. And again, is this something that did it come to him intuitively, or was there a secret tradition about discs being involved in Christian apparitions? We don't really know, but either way, the disc motif shows up undeniably with the moment where Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist, or maybe it's John the Baptist at Jesus'. No, I think this is Jesus with John the Baptist baptizing him. I think that's what we're supposed to see here. Or maybe this is Jesus washing his feet. I don't know. If anybody knows the context, you can certainly give it to me in the comments. But this can be viewed, if you want to go see that painting, you go to Cambridge and you visit the Fitzwilliam Museum, and there it is. It's pretty freaking amazing, pretty phenomenal thing. Yep, and definitely the idea of, oh my God. No, that's, you guys can, yep, thank you. So somebody, anyway, blasphemous, whatever. Don't appreciate that, but whatever. We're not going to, that comment got moderated. So you can see that these UFOs were appearing, and that either they're stylized this way or people are reinterpreting things that were heard about. Maybe there were UFO sightings that they were, but this is really, really wild because you look at it and it's just so beautiful. I really love this image because of there's 4 rays coming down, and it's just really, really amazing, phenomenal work that absolutely looks like a flying disc, which again, the Law of One tells us this is what we're getting from the Confederation. And there's a dove of peace in there. So I love that one. It's really, really beautiful. And, takes a long time to get these things to go. It takes a long time to realize what really is going on in the world and how effective and amazing this stuff is. So next we have the Crucifixion, which is a fresco from Svetitskov Woo! Svetishkoveli. Svetishkoveli. There. I got it. In Mitsketa, Georgia. Okay, those are real tongue twisters. Svetishkoveli in Mitsketa, Georgia. This is called the crucifixion. And unfortunately, in some type of religious persecution, it was desecrated, where you see that people scratched off lines around their faces and their bodies, and then Jesus even has some scratches on his face. But this is a depiction of Jesus being crucified. Clearly, it's archaic work. See if we had a date. I don't have a date on that one, sorry. But then look at what happens here. Very, very obvious bell-shaped craft, once again, 2 UFO-looking objects, one blue and one red. And this is another interesting consideration, is the degree to which they can actually be colored. They can have colors on them, and those colors can change depending on what the UFO wants to do. And this is one of the things that we see in, why do we see that? Why do we see colors? Because they have the ability to glow in different ways. We've seen modern UFO pictures. In fact, one of the pictures we have does show it glowing. But, this is actually very common, that the UFOs will glow. They don't just stay looking metallic. And in fact, in the Fatima sightings, the UFO that was a disc that appeared in 1917 over Portugal actually glowed in different colors and had beautiful, beautiful waves of colored light that went throughout the sky and cast across the air in such a beautiful way. It was just stunning. And again, I'm very grateful to be here today, and I'm very grateful to give you this message. And I want to always have you remember that these events take place. It has nothing to do with my credibility as an individual. It has to do with the scope of what we really know. So this data does not hinge on me. It's just something that, is available to everyone and should always be considered when we're looking at disclosure. In other words, UFOs have been around for a long time, and the disc-shaped ones appear to be usually the good guys. And here it is directly, again, associated with Jesus. That is just stunning. Frankly, to me, it's stunning. So then we have a woodcut from Arabia, 1479. Not a lot of context on this one. It showed up on crystallinks.com. Maybe we could do reverse image search and study more, but it clearly looks like a cigar-shaped craft. Clearly it's in the sky. It's got clouds around it. Pretty wild, illustration right there from Arabia. So here's another one. This is from China, 1400 AD, and it was called Illustrated Survey of Weird Countries. And here we have 2 men, so they're portrayed as human, in a chariot. Now this again was on Crystal Links, and we're going to quote from them. It was within fair use limits, so I can do all that. And so all that kanji character stuff that you see on the right, all that handwriting, we're going to read it. We're going to find out what it actually means, and we're going to apply it to this. So the caption, which is what we were just showing you, is those Chinese characters, reads, Ji Gung Land. The people could make flying cars that traveled far with a suitable wind. Wow. So this is clearly people from some other place that were able to do this and able to materialize in front of them. It's dazzling. In Tarng's day, 1700 BC, Jigung people flying a car on a westerly road that reached Yuzhou. So the translation isn't that great. But so again, amazing that they were actually contacted by these beings in some type of flying craft back around 1700 BC. Tarng dismantled their car so it could not be demonstrated to the people. Interesting. So they had operational security. They didn't want the people of the time studying their flying craft. But clearly this is fully in concert with extraterrestrial visitations, right? Later, an east wind came on, which he had them fly the car back to their own country, west of our gateway. So maybe they did have a base on Earth. Maybe they were temporarily located there. Maybe that's just what they said. But 5,000 kilometers west. So could it be a remnant of an Atlantean civilization? We don't know. But again, very, very interesting that these people, and let's again get back to what their name was. They were called Ji-gung land. The people could make flying cars traveling with suitable wind. In Tarng's day, the Ji-gung people flew a car on a westerly path to reach Yuzhou, which is apparently where this was. And then he dismantled their car so people could not see it. So these are the Ji-gung people. And they then flew back to their own country. So that is clearly, very obviously, some type of UFO contact in BC China. Really, really amazing. Okay, here's another one. The Japanese island of Johtuo has this relief that was carved inside a cave. And man, I mean, that is just a straight ahead win. This is copied over in line art. But clearly you're seeing, again, people in flying discs, and they've got flutes that they're playing, apparently. Maybe that has to do with the sound of the disc. We don't really know. It's pretty freaking awesome, though. This is an artistic reproduction of a relief found in a labyrinth on the Japanese island of Johtuo in the Tuangting Lake. An expedition took place there in 1957, 2 years before there was an earthquake in that region. Okay. So maybe I don't know if maybe the earthquake made the cave so that you couldn't get in there, but there was a labyrinth inside the island, and they found this artistic reproduction inside. The expedition was led by Professor Ji Penlei. They found various reliefs, so it wasn't just one, showing humans in strange clothes which looked like astronaut suits, including the fact that it had hose-like objects attached to their clothes. They also found a painting that apparently resembled the solar system. The third and fourth circle planets were connected with a line. Also, there were 10 planets, excluding the sun as a planet. Very interesting. Very interesting. Humans in strange clothes, astronaut suits, and of course, you have this, which again is clearly a depiction of flying saucer activity. So do you not love this? I mean, this is just like such a big payoff for us as UFO enthusiasts when we get data that's this good. Yeah, it is something exactly like you'd see on Ancient Aliens. And, right. So I'm not sure why that comment was actually moderated. But anyway, it happened. Anyway, sometimes that occurs. But yeah, the Yatagarasu, three-legged crow. Right, there's different... I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that one, but anyway, Vakapala, we love you anyway. Just that one, I'm not sure why you moderated, but it's okay. Everybody's forgiven. It's all good. And it was just it's just procedural in the course of what we do. Sometimes these things happen. So yeah, that one really, really strikes my fancy. I love it. Gives me Fifth Element vibes, somebody says. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So here's another one, which we don't really have a lot of detail on this one, but it was a wheel in the sky illustrated over Japan. Roue Celeste Flamboyante, a flamboyant celestial roue, which I guess is like some type of manifestation, some type of fiery manifestation. And then you see down there on the left, one of those Tengu birdmen that they have in Japan. Apparently, again, symbolizing that these beings could fly. Oh, sorry, it was an accident, Vakapala said. Yeah, that's true. All right, so anyway, really good stuff here. So here's another one. This is from Jacob Elbfast, 1535, and it is called Weather Sunset. Now, is this absolutely confirmation of a UFO sighting? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, he could just be illustrating astrological conjunctions between the sun and the moon, perhaps, or something. But, it sure has provocative elements, and apparently might have been some type of aerial phenomenon. This could have been something that extraterrestrials could create to create a visual manifestation, and it also looks like the letter Q, doesn't it? Which is pretty cool. Melinda Jensen just donated. David, you are such a blessing to everyone. I send you much love and light. Please continue bringing light into a world that needs it. Much love, Melinda. Thank you very much, Melinda. Really, really appreciate your help. So yeah, this one trips me out. because apparently there was some type of celestial manifestation like this that people were seeing, clearly caused by a higher intelligence. There's the town down at the bottom. If you want to see the whole thing again, you can go back and look. But another similar phenomena that apparently was something that people actually saw. Strange object appears in a Dutch art from 1660, and there it is. And notice that it has the disc shape again, and there's faces inside, and those faces look human-like, but not entirely human. So this might have been another weird extraterrestrial manifestation. This again is from Crystal Links. The illustration depicts a sighting by 2 Dutch ships in the North Sea of an object that was moving slowly in the sky. It appeared to be made by 2 discs of different sizes. The source for this account is one of the books entitled Theatrum Orbis Terrarum by Admiral Blau, or Blue. These books were compilations of articles by different authors and consisted of detailed accounts of long engagements at sea, cartography information, etc. So some type of UFO manifestation. Okay, so here's another one, a very interesting one, illustration over Hamburg, Germany, November 4th, 1697. And what we see here, again, looks like stylized flying discs in the sky. There's a glow coming off of them, and they have X's on them. Again, this is Hamburg, Germany. You can speculate all you want about what this means, but once more, we're back to the idea of positive disc-shaped UFO craft creating quite a spectacle for the people of Hamburg, Germany at that time, which again was November 4th, what was it, 16-something. Sorry, I got to go back to the slide now. And I went a little bit too far. Yes, November 4th, 1697 is what that one was. Okay. So then next in line, we have France in 1338. This is one that you might have seen. I think it's been on Ancient Aliens before, some other places. 1338 now in France. This one has a whole story behind it. What is that thing? And actually being inspired by this image is what led to me saying, yeah, I'll wear the gold shirt again. That's pretty cool. I think we can certainly do that. So yeah, the subject of today's show is definitely not political. We're definitely talking about UFOs. So anyway, here it is in France, and 1338, and we know that this woman was not any ordinary woman. The woman with her hand on the wheel was some type of apparently being similar to like Saint Germain. It's the same kind of story again, which is really, really cool. So here it is. This is again from the ArtNet website. The manuscript was entitled Livre, which means book, de bonne mère, good mère. I'm not sure what mère means. This image appears on folio 129 verso. The goddess of luck, Fortuna, appears beside her wheel. So this is obviously a supernatural being of some kind. It's not a typical person. She's got the wheel of fortune. She is the goddess of luck. And look at what's up in the sky above her. She materializes there, apparently. She's helping people. Maybe she's giving them prophecies. They look like they're totally amazed to see her. Look at the expressions on their faces. You can see they're just dazzled by what's going on. And she appears to have come in a craft from the sky, because you notice that there's people up there at the top, and they are gawking at the image of whatever is in the sky. And by the way, hot air balloons had not yet been invented in whatever this was, 1338. They had not yet happened. That was not a technology we were using. Somebody says, I live in Hamburg. That's right. The gold shirt is absolute fire. Thank you very much. So anyway, yeah, this is a very interesting one because, again, it's like the Lady Fortune. In fact, I want to kind of zoom in on their faces a little bit so we can see more of that. So let's do that right now. We'll get some greater detail on this. I just want to get a little better view of what their faces look like. So there we go. And we'll do that again. Okay. All right, back to the slide. So there it is as the wide view, and here it is up close. Yeah, you can see they're clearly very excited about what's in the sky. There's all these other little glimmering lights, and they're clearly amazed by her as well. So this was definitely some type of a weird contact event involving, in this case, a spheroidal UFO that clearly had a gold appearance to it. So the strange gold sphere appears in the sky above them as she is cranking the wheel. Was she some sort of human ET like Saint Germain? I believe absolutely yes. So this is another one that seems to illustrate perhaps some type of contact. We don't know very much about it, but it does appear, this is on a Crystal Links page again, some type of authentic illustration from medieval times. We could do reverse image search on this. I just didn't have the time to get all these things done at once. But there it is, some type of egg-shaped craft with porthole windows, the glow coming off of it, and the soldier in his chainmail is all excited about it. It looks like a hot air balloon reflecting swamp gas, says Kindness for Critters. That's funny. Okay, next in line, we have the Roman historian Julio Obsequens. And he drew something called Prodigorum Liber. And in this case, we have two strange objects illustrated in the sky. We have a watch on the left, and then we have this torch of fire on the right. So that could be the disk and the cigar-shaped mothership, just like we're always used to seeing. There it is again. Again, this is Prodigorum Liber, the Roman historian Julio Obsequens. So this is very, very old illustration. Roman historian, clearly illustrating the two different main types of positive ships that we see, the cigar-shaped mothership and the disk as well. Illustrated here like a pocket watch. And notice also the flower shape on the pocket watch. I think that's important. Okay, next, the next one we're going to see is called Moses with the Ten Commandments. And this, again, is just undeniable UFO illustration. It was found on a wood drawer from furniture at the Earls d'Outremont in Belgium. Moses is depicted receiving the tablets of the Ten Commandments with the flaming horns. I guess this was a church where they found it. And several equally flaming objects are in the sky before him. So as Moses receives the Ten Commandments, here's these flying objects in the sky directly associated with that. And you zoom in on it up close, it's like, my gosh, there it is. Very, very cool. So Roger van der Weyden, 12th century, is the next one. And this is Jesus, again, being, I guess this would be, you know, them giving him a blessing of some kind. And then over his head is this apparition of the Father God, I guess you could say, inside some type of object, which again could be illustrative of a UFO. And there's the rest of the illustration at the bottom. Really, really interesting. Once again, directly associated with Christianity. Baptism of Christ by Ottavio Vanini, circa 1640. So here we are in 1640, and again you have the dove giving off a beam of light with the Father God up there in the sky above him. And it's very, very cool. Again, could be illustrative of a UFO. Maybe not, but it's another one worth considering. Fra Angelico in 1425 did Baptism of Christ. And once again, we have the motif of the dove overhead as Jesus is being baptized. Again, could very much indicate a UFO. This one maybe is a little bit of a stretch because it does definitely look like a dove. But, you know, use your imagination, and it's interesting. Anyway, Paolo Uccello. This is a very interesting one. It almost looks like Escher type of stuff. Maybe Escher was influenced by this weird surrealistic style that we see. 1460 to 65, it's called La Tabaid. Paolo Uccello. There's a lot of different things going on here. First of all, you have Jesus on the cross up there on the left, and people, you know, milling around the crucifix. You see that there's somebody up there on a platform on the top right, and he's praying, and there's a rainbow over him. And sure enough, if you look very closely, well, that rainbow is very beautiful. And then you notice on the bottom right, you see another image of Jesus on the cross. So these are like different scenes. But then when you look out into where he's looking in the sky has some strange celestial phenomena going on here. There's no doubt about that. There's some weird apparitions occurring in the sky. And, you know, that could be indicative of some type of sighting, some type of UFO event. Very, very cool. Then you have Mary coming in through one of these eye-shaped windows on the bottom left. That's pretty wild too. But then we get into the center part, and this is where things really get interesting. There's some kind of church service happening down there, and everybody's around the pastor. But then you look up on the hill above where the trees are, and there you see Jesus on the cross, and there is clearly something that again looks like a flying saucer. It is red down below him. And again, maybe you'd say, well, all the trees look like that too. Yeah, but it's red, and it seems to have a trail coming off of it. And then you had that phenomena in the sky when we went back to here that looks very suspicious as well. So again, what is that UFO thing? It could be a manifestation. Again, it has the right shape to be one of these so-called Bellcraft. So then somebody on my page put this one in. It said Draconair, which may mean UFO, Teoria de Constação. And I actually found this later on. Notice the illustration on the bottom. There's text on the bottom, as you can see. This is from a Romanian church, and I actually found stuff on it. Grok found it, actually, and then I copied it over. They say it could be red because of the blood of Jesus. That's possible. It is possible, anyway. Anyway, this RomaniaInsider.com UFO-like object depicted in wall painting in medieval Romanian church. Notice it has the same type of flower petals that we saw in the one that looked like a watch, which is pretty freaking awesome to me. Pretty freaking awesome. So there again, is a detailed view of it without the stuff that we saw on the bottom before, which was the text down there. So this image has more of the text included. But anyway, let's read about this a little bit more. The 13th century monastery church located inside the medieval citadel in Sighisoara, Transylvania region of Romania. The name of the church is Biserica Mănăstiri, so the Biserica Monastery, which was burned to the ground in the 17th century and was then rebuilt. So interestingly enough, when it was burned to the ground, that's the illustration. You see there's fire on the building, and they have this weird UFO over it. It looks like a UFO to me. So sounds like Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, the manager of the History Museum in Sighisoara, I think I got that right, Sighisoara, said the following: the church is evangelical, and the image has a secondary role or is less representative. Indeed, there is a painting in the sacristy of the church with a religious scene that represents a cloud, perhaps Elijah's assumption to heaven, which looks like a dome, but can lead to a more modern representation that might make us think of a UFO. So it's literally painted inside the church. And then here's another link, another article about it. The caption on the painting that we read at the bottom says, "Israel, put your hope in the Lord." And remember, it's an illustration of a UFO. And the image is thought to date from just after 1523, when the Bible was first translated into German. UFO experts have drawn a comparison with other well-known paintings which seem to depict flying saucers, such as the 1710 painting Baptism of Christ by Ert de Gelder, which we already had. So there again it is. You can see this is right when the fire was taking place, almost implying that the UFO could help preserve people. But notice how distinctive the structure is. It's got this point on the bottom, it's got these petals, and that other illustration that we saw had the same thing. This is pretty freaking cool. And I love this type of UFO research when we can get this detailed, that we're getting these types of images. I just love it. So here's another one. This is from 1600, The Glorification of the Eucharist by Bonaventura Salimbeni. Again, from 1600, in the Church of San Lorenzo in San Pietro Montalcino, Italy. And so now what we have is, this is an inset in the wall here, and there's pillars on either side. We have Jesus and maybe the Father, and they're holding on to some very interesting, almost Sputnik-like object. What is that supposed to be? Well, it could be the globe, and they got these funny needles that they're poking into it there. Maybe that's an illustration of the Earth, but it also looks an awful lot like a UFO type of probe or something. I mean, we don't really know what this is, but it's very interesting, and it does very much relate to the idea of UFOs. And then again, you have the dove with the kind of oval around him. So, you know, that's a very, very fascinating UFO-like image once again that we're seeing here. So I love it. Serena Bella says, David, I'm loving this. It's very cool. It should have been redacted. Well, yeah, there might be little things here and there, but whatever. Here's another one. Notre Dame in Beaune, Burgundy, 1330, called the Magnificent. Notre Dame's, Notre Dame. In the Burgundy later got integrated into France, by the way. So this is Notre Dame, France. So there, the Magnificent, people are calling it the Magnificent, and look at what's on the horizon. Once again, the undeniable image of the so-called Bellcraft, which is, you know, right there in your face, staring at you. You can't deny it. These people don't seem to be aware of it so much, but it obviously is the result of a UFO sighting. And, because it so perfectly falls in line with what we see today. This is another one that is so amazing that you've probably seen before. I've certainly shown this to you before. It's one of my favorite ones. It's from 1486, Carlo Crivelli. Crivelli did this, and it's called the Annunciation with Saint Emilius. Annunciation is where Archangel Gabriel first let Mary know that she had a divine birth coming. And so this is the moment, maybe the moment where the actual birth was transferred into her, where the seed of Christ was planted in by some type of divine means. But you get this UFO-looking thing with a laser-like beam going right into where Mary is in this building. It's fascinating. So there it is, the Annunciation with Saint Emilius. So here it is from the wide view. And then as we zoom in a little more, you see, my God, there's that flying saucer up there in the sky, beaming in this beam, causing this to happen. And it is, again, you can see that it's like layers within layers. It has what look like metallic spheres on the bottom. Again, totally fitting with this concept of modern UFO sightings. And so once again, we're going to go back to ArtNet. And this was the moment when Archangel Gabriel announced to Mary that she was going to be giving birth to the Messiah. There's a laser-like beam that reaches her and touches her. It's obviously similar to a UFO. Was this widely known back in 1486? Well, that's the question we have to ask. So let's go down, and I'm going to actually zoom in now on Mary. I want to do that with some of the time that I have here, so we can see where does it actually touch her. It looks like it's touching her right in the pineal gland. How fitting is that? So let's bring that part in here. Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. So we have the UFO up there. We have the whole thing. Let's do that again. All right. So there we go. It's the beams hitting her in the head. And then she, you see how beautiful this thing is. All the detail, the gold leaf, the color, it's beautiful. And it's hitting her right in the head. And that is beaming into her mind. And that might be the moment where she was actually having the divine conception. So this is what it's implying. Okay, so I love that one. Here's another one. This is a painting. We don't really know very much about it. It again appeared on Crystal Links. Just using the, when it's so dark outside, my eyes get really burned by the lights. And so staying on the air for this long is hard on the eyes, big time. Painting from 1420 of some type of dying old man. And he's on the ground. Maybe he's dying. I don't know. It could be. But then what are those clouds in the background? And notice there's angels there. So we don't really have a lot of context on this one about what this is about. But notice there's winged beings in the background on the left. And then there they are coming out of their craft. Clearly stylized UFO type of clouds up in the sky above them. Again, this is clearly Christian based on the presence of the angels. Some type of Christian artwork. And again, the clouds undeniably have that UFO-like appearance. So what are you guys thinking about this? I'm curious to hear your thoughts so far. I think disclosure from official would be great, but for those of us who know, we know. It's Davina St. Clair. Directed energy, communication signals funneling through the body, transmission of information. Yes, it's very cool. Cloud ships of Megonius is Axis Mundi. Yeah, this is stuff that I find very exciting. You need yellow glasses to protect from the blue light for electronics and specifics. My eyes will burn if I don't wear them, says Davina. Thank you. So yeah, I'm fascinated by this stuff, you guys. And, you know, this one clearly has some UFO-like appearance. It's not the greatest one, but it's definitely interesting. Low res, unfortunately. Here's another one, again, from Crystal Links. Low res, but we still see something interesting. The San Francesco Church in Arezzo, Italy, has these illustrations of, again, lenticular weird cloud formations in the sky in the middle that very much have a UFO-like appearance. You have to squint your eyes a little bit, but it's definitely there. Here's another one that came off of Pinterest. This is the Annunciation, this time by Pinturicchio, 1501 AD. And what we see is, once again, the moment where Mary receives the divine conception of Christ from Archangel Gabriel. And you see all the arches, the beautiful arches there. And there's Gabriel on his cloud with all the angel beings around him. And I wish I could get a visitation like that. Wouldn't that be amazing? Oh, you sent the right comment. Yep, okay, thank you, Davina. So you see the dove coming in, and again, you know, this isn't quite so authoritative of a definitely UFO related, but you do have a being on a cloud sending a beam into Mary to create the conception. And again, there's the dove of peace. You're right. It's very interesting. There's a coin made on the flower UFO. You're right. That is true. There is a coin about that flower UFO that's out there. So this is really interesting, isn't it? There he is on his cloud. He's happy. He's doing his thing. So here's another one. Marco Palmazzano, Annunciation. And again, what really fascinates me the most about this one is, once more, it's the conception of the Christ in Mary. And you have kind of a silhouetted being behind her. There's like almost looks like a soldier in the clouds or something there. And then up there in the sky is this UFO-looking craft that's right there. So again, I want to capture that because there's more to it that we missed. So let me do this first so we can look at that soldier a little more too, because I forgot to bring him in. But all these elements are significant. So anyway, we're gonna get that done. I want you to be able to see the whole thing. Okay. So, boom, there we go. So there's the wide image of the whole thing. Again, this is called Annunciation by Marco Palmazzano. And so there's the dove in the sky, and there you can see that soldier in the clouds. There's definitely some kind of implied mysterious being. And Vega is saying, these are amazing. Elisa Taylor says, love your work, David. I've been with you since we were both so young. You're confirming so much. Donna Smith, you're the only one explaining science, spirituality, different realms and dimensions. This is very uplifting. Thank you very much for saying that. I really do appreciate that, Donna. But this is really wild, right? I mean, it's again a dove, but it's definitely got some pretty strong UFO-like associations to it. Here's another one that is just so beautiful. It's Annunciation by Francesco del Casa. And so there again is Mary. And in this case, there's an angel beside her, but where did the angel come from? Oh yeah, up in the sky, in that window on the left, is what clearly looks like a UFO. It would appear that Francesco del Casa, the author of this painting, clearly was aware of some type of UFO event, and then again, I want to see what's down there on the bottom in greater depth. So let's just pop out again here, and we're going to zoom in on that area on the bottom just to make sure that there isn't anything hiding in there that might be cool that we missed, because I want to see exactly what that thing is. So we're going to do that right now. Okay. It's not anything really fantastic, but I just wanted to get a look at it to make sure that we didn't have anything that we missed. So there again is Mary and Archangel Gabriel, I guess, although it looks like a female to me in this case. And then down at the bottom, there's the area down at the bottom. And you'll notice that there's two clouds up in the sky on the left, and they do look like UFOs. They've got that nice disc-like shape, so that even does fit as well. There's a few of them up there, actually. There's like maybe even 5 of them, depending on how many you count. But again, undeniable UFO type of image up in the sky, which is really, really something. Here's yet another example. This one is La Annunciación, Alejo Fernandez. La Annunciación. Once again, the Annunciation, the cosmic transfer of this Christ energy into her. And you see it takes place through 2 different phases. Scott Monson, David, I can be thick. Forgive me, giant hugs. No problem, buddy. You're fine. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate you, buddy. No big deal. Everything is good. I got much bigger things to worry about, but don't want to hurt your feelings either. So there we go. 3 different phases. There's a guy up in the sky on the very top left. Then there's a symbol in the air. And then there's something happening around her head. But once again, the guy up in the sky is beaming something to her while he's kind of sitting on some platform, implying, again, the idea of a UFO, implying Christian saints or Christian beings sending this stuff in and making these things happen. So, and then also notice there's like a wheel in the wall on the right. And once again, you got that, what looks like, is that the 8-pointed star? Yeah, that is. That's the 8-pointed star again. So that's very, very interesting iconography. And we love this stuff, man. I mean, this art is so indicative of how long this has been going on, that UFOs keep getting seen over and over again. You see there's like a Christ baby with a crucifix is flying down. But there's that guy, and he's beaming it right out of his mouth, actually. So then, last but not least, we have a couple that show the same things from Hinduism. This is Jaya Shri Vishnu, or the completion of Daksha Yagya. And this is a really wild one, too. And so there he is with the very obvious UFO type of shape over him. And he's on his flying bird. That's Garuda. That's what he travels on. This is, again, Vishnu. Travels on Garuda, the flying bird, which is, again, symbolic of what? A UFO. Julia in Georgia, $49.99. I remember years ago I was binge watching your show. I had a dream of you asking if I'd read all your books. It said almost all. Your response was, well, you need to get caught up. Thank you for all you've done. Yeah, so exciting. I guess we're going to do the photographs next week, which is great because I need material. Blue skin and multiple pairs of arms, says Paul Cannon. You're absolutely right. And that is, part of what we're dealing with here. Amazing work, David, says Charlie Winter. I've heard Jesus was a Pleiadian. Do you think it's possible? I don't know about that. A lot of people might get upset if you try to make that claim. It could be. But, the main point that we're dealing with here is that this, again, is now same type of exact shape that we saw before in Christian illustrations showing up in a Hindu illustration of Vishnu. Very, very interesting, right? I love it. And then, yes, he has blue skin. He has multiple arms, which apparently is because he's a time traveler, and he's existing through different frames of time. Very, very cool. So we could even zoom in on that one again a little bit, just to get a good close-up on what he's got right there up in the sky. I'm happy to do that for you guys because, again, I was kind of in a rush getting this stuff done. We had so much wind. It was like very difficult to, concentrate and focus this week. But I said, we really need to get this art in because it's just such wonderful stuff. I love this artwork. So there he is from far away. There it is up close. You can really see it with better detail there. Yeah, somebody doesn't like that, but you can't say mean things to people either, so I'm sorry about that. That one got moderated. Okay, so next we have another illustration that's very strange. Piero della Francesca, 1439 to 1460, the baptism of Christ. And once again, you have the dove over his head, but you also have very obvious UFO-styled clouds in the background with the same exact type of shapes. So this is clearly, again, indicative of that UFO phenomenon that we seem to keep seeing, the baptism of Christ So some people knew about these flying saucers. They were drawing them in multiple illustrations. There's way too many of these to be coincidence. So for me, I feel like I'm being a big help in the disclosure process, a proponent of full disclosure, getting this information out there, getting you to see it. It's beautiful. And this is stuff that just blows my mind. So then we have another Hindu Vimana painting, date and author unknown. But there again, clearly the Vimana looks like it's a little bit stylized, but yeah, very much similar to modern depictions of UFOs. And here's another one that I found, the Pushpaka Vimana, right there. So there you have it. Some very, very fascinating images that we've had. And now I want to give you some stuff to think about regarding everything that we just saw. So we're going to go down here. We'll do the photographs next week because that's, again, a whole new discussion that we can get into. And it's very cool. So, again, everything that we've seen is really, to me, indicative that no, despite the fact that people are saying, oh, UFOs have killed people and soldiers have died and all this kind of stuff. No, it's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom. There's some really good things going on. B. Boyingen donated $50. Thank you very much for that. It's right here. And we have two more. We have Jabo Philippe, $5, and Miles Servin donated $100. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Boyingen says, from all the paid courses and your TV shows, I've been there. I don't live much, but I always watch. You helped us build our spiritual foundations. It feels like a treasure that I recorded your show. Cheers, David. We love you. Jabo Philippe wants a Tranma impersonation. I think I'm way too tired to do that right now. About her time as a mafioso before taking witness protection a bit too far. Maybe next week. Maybe next week. I'm so tired I can barely keep my eyes open right now. Miles Servin donated and said, great content today, David. Thank you for sharing the cool artwork. This is for you and Angry Daddy to enjoy a nice meal together. I really appreciate you guys, and I really appreciate all your help. Really appreciate the donations. I love this kind of content. I love the UFO artwork, and I found a lot more of them than I thought I would. So disclosure is happening. We'll do a fun tour next week through UFO photographs, because when you see these photographs, they're very obviously the same type of stuff that we saw in the UFO art. Maybe I'll even compare and contrast some of the UFO photographs with some of the artwork next week, so I can have some things to tweak. But anyway, it's a good time to be alive. It's a good time to be here. I want to thank you guys for being here today. And it's just wonderful that we can share in these illustrations. In fact, without knowing what's really going on in the world, without having all these things that are in our awareness, it would look really frustrating. It would look really scary. I mean, there's so many things that you could worry about. There's so many things that you could be concerned about. That's right. My birthday is coming up next week. Today's show was awesome. Thank you very much, Gene. Do you know what ET group the Bourbon Royal line is a part of? No, I don't. Anyway, thank you for the donations. So it's fascinating when you look at where we've gone as a species, where we've gone as a civilization, that all these pieces of information are coming into our consciousness now, and that we have gained so much. But it's important to remember the scope of what we know, the scope of what's been taught to us, the scope of what we have available to us as souls, because it's truly vast. There's a universe out there of all these beings, and the Law of One tells us that all there is in the grander sense of things is consciousness, that it's a conscious, living universe. So with that living universe comes the promise that we inherit our own divinity from celestial sources, that we are protected in the eyes and in the mind of God. We are kept alive by God's grace and God's mercy, that we are given baptized, anointed leaders like Jesus, who, again, I believe he is the manifestation of the galactic consciousness, or the Logos, as it is described in the Law of One. And that's really, really fascinating. So we have so much to look forward to. We have so much to be grateful for when we see how these pieces connect. And so this archaic artwork to me really, really illustrates that, yes, there are positive ETs out there, and they are very focused upon us. They're very focused upon our ascension. Why do so many of these images appear in these religious artworks? Why do we keep seeing UFOs again and again and again in what's clearly religious artwork? I think that one of the main focal points is that, yes, we have never been alone. And these beings are here to guide us, to protect us, to shepherd us through life, to give us hope, to give us meaning, to give us a reason to be alive. And so, yes, when we look at what's going on right now, everything that's going on with the Iran situation, it's really scary. Okay, I get that. And so I didn't want you to be dwelling on the negative and the idea that there's some planet-sized object coming in 2027 that's going to invade the solar system. Well, these beings are not mythological. They're real. And when you look at all that art and you see how many times they've appeared in these various depictions, it's obvious. We saw it in China. We saw it in India. We see it all throughout Christian artwork. There's something going on here. We're not alone. The standard bell-shaped craft as defined in the Law of One has been around for a very long time. When we come back next week, we'll see many other modern-day pictures, most black and white, of the same type of stuff, and they are fascinatingly interconnected. So let's go back now to remembering that the positive ETs are here. They want us to ascend. What does that really mean? We are going through a consciousness acceleration. We're going through a planet-wide activation process. That process involves all of us going through the deepest, darkest initiations. The Law of One, again, shows how when fourth density energy comes in at various points, that there's this uptick in the positive. There's this uptick in the negative as well. Both of those things happen. As the energy comes in with higher concentration, you get both outcomes. And remember that Chizhevsky, the Russian scientist, showed us these solar cycles of 11 years in duration, the sunspot cycle, that as the sunspot cycle is peaking, that you get these major advancements in society, but you also get wars. And we're right in the peak of that right now. The disclosure announcement came on February 19th. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction was February 20th, right afterwards. And now we're seeing there's this planetary alignment going on, and all this war stuff has just started to happen. So we obviously pray that it does not accelerate into World War III. We don't want to see that happen. And we want to remember that, again, positive ETs were there at various points in the founding of Christianity. So if the negative is able to catch up to me, if I'm not around anymore, I mean, I worry about that sometimes. I do, because of various threats that I've had and so forth. It's a dangerous thing to do this kind of work. But if that were to happen, I still want you to remember what I've told you, and I want other people to be out there speaking about the positive too, because it's not just me. This goes way beyond just me. These are Christian artworks showing you the positive beings in their presence, where they've come from, where they're going, how this all fits together. And so don't get sucked in by a negative narrative that says, oh, all these ETs are bad, they're all evil. Then why would they be showing up around Christ? Why would they be so pervasively illustrated in the artwork that we just saw? And again, I want you to remember the Virgin Mary sightings of Fatima, where we had, in the Fatima, Portugal incident of 1917, it was on I think it was the 13th of each month that these mass sightings were occurring. It was a flying disc, a silvery metallic disc in the sky. I missed a couple donations here. We had Amaris Maria donated $50. Thank you. Storm Raven said, great talk, David. Thanks for all you do. Donated $27. Thank you very much. Yes, telling the truth can be deadly in ways you don't even know. So, yeah, I feel like I'm doing the best I can. I'm hanging in there, but it has been really hard, and I am definitely under massive attack in various ways. And so I apologize about that. I wish my life was cleaner or safer or easier, but it's been very, very intense. If they strike you down, you become more powerful than they can imagine. Well, I hope so. We don't want anything to happen to you, Davis' Cosmic Goddess. We love you, and God has been protecting you all these years for your amazing timeline. Well, thank you very much. So yes, you know, we don't have to worry too much, because I think that everything's going to be fine in the grander scheme of things. But yeah, I mean, it's intense what I've done, and the negative is coming to light, and their back is up against the wall. They feel threatened. They feel very concerned. And they have lots of different ways to try to work on people and to try to, you know, get you all messed up. And so I have to say, you know, it's a blessing to be here today. It's a blessing to have this set. It's a blessing to have this show. It's a blessing to be here with you, to be talking to you like this. So let's go back to Fatima. Let's go back to what happened in Portugal. These 3 children saw an apparition of the Mother Mary. It was clearly Mother Mary, and now we even have the legendary Jacques Vallée, who's come out and talked about the Fatima apparitions. The 13th of every month, it was right after Portugal entered World War I that it teased out this Marial apparition. And Mary was saying, we don't want you to go to World War as it was happening. She didn't want that to happen. World War II had the Battle of LA. We have a photo in there I'll show you next week. The Battle of Los Angeles, the flying disc being shot at with all the beams of spotlights on it. We have, so the Battle of Los Angeles was the same thing. It was very soon after America entered into World War II, after Pearl Harbor. Then you get this massive fleet of UFOs that flies over LA, and they shot a bunch of shrapnel and stuff at it. God, Rick donated $50 again. I'm doing well here. Here's the $50 for all the free information I've soaked up throughout the years. Thank you very much. Yes, we are going to do a paid program pretty soon. That is in the works. But I wanted to, this was just something that I started out with just finding a couple of them, and then I found more, and it was like, man, this is definitely a show. This is great. So anyway, statues of Mother Mary shedding tears, says David of Shield. You're right, that's definitely happened. Foo Fighters, another example. Kindness for Critters says, calm strength, David. Peace lies within. Thank you. Really appreciate what you guys are talking about. So did you know anything about old mirrors destroyed during the World War? Right, that dug up out of the ground in one of these ancient sites. Yes, I did hear about that one long ago. That's a long, old memory, but you're helping me remember that. Let's see what we got here. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there in the world. There's a lot of good things going on. And so during the Fatima event, what we saw was these 3 children being told, don't go to war. And so once the war started, the Mother Mary came and gave them these apparitions that culminated on October 13th, 1917, with 90,000 people seeing what they called a disk of dull silver in the sky that blotted out the sun and then created these huge rainbow pinwheels of light throughout the sky, going through the whole sky. That was absolutely stunning when you think about the implications of what that means, because that was 30 years before 1947 when the term flying saucer was coined. And now we're seeing them in ancient illustrations. So can I prove the law of one is true? No. Do I believe the law of one is a valid source? Yes. Do I believe that these discs are coming from higher level Christian beings? Yes. And remember what happened in Fatima. All 90,000 of those people who saw this phenomenon in the sky, their clothes were dried after they'd all been soaked to the skin. 90,000 people got dry clothes. Stunning. Stunning that happened the way that it did. So again, probably my favorite illustration of all, again, Marcelino de Panical, the miracle of the snow, illustrating an event from 325 AD where snow came down and it showed them right where to build the church. And they illustrated, again, the undeniable presence of lenticular clouds. We had some big donations come in once again, so I don't want to miss those. This is Gonil Hinchy, donated $100 Australian. And we have Beverly Adams, And she says, in your interview many years ago with Clifford Mahooty, he had a UFO model on the shelves along with various Native American pieces. You're right. Native American people have had the same visitations, similar apparitions again, very, very interesting. But again, Marcelino de Panacal's image really to me is the exemplary form of showing you somebody knew something, that there was a UFO sighting, a mass UFO sighting, along with this weird snow formation that took place. So we've now seen many different Christian paintings showing us the same type of thing, where there is this relationship between Jesus, between Ascension, and between extraterrestrial beings. They are all very interrelated. Archangel Gabriel showing up with the laser coming out, the Annunciation, multiple illustrations of the Annunciation. And so these are all very interrelated. And what we're saying, again, is that disclosure is going to very greatly assist the positive side. So instead of looking at this as like, oh my God, you know, there's these evil beings out there and they want to invade, and what are we going to do and how are we going to be okay? No, there's also a very interesting religious history to this. There's a religious context to this. It goes way back in time. And those positive beings, once the free will principle is lifted, once we get the opportunity to hear from them directly, it's going to change everything. It's going to really, really change everything. It's going to transform everything that we thought we knew about ourselves and reality and what's going on in the world. And it's going to give us a whole new lease on life. They have the ability to transform everything about life on Earth in ways we don't even understand. It's phenomenal. So, yes, disclosure is coming. We've been given the official announcement. The Secretary of Defense is now telling us this is going to happen, or the Secretary of War. It's powerful. So I am very excited about this. And you got to remember that once we get disclosure, our free will be decisively modified. Now, why do I say that? I say that because right now, as I showed you, we had 56% of the public believes in UFOs. They believe that there's something going on. That's still a majority number. It's so, you know, the ridicule factor is more with people who are older that went through this psychological operation that was actually conducted by legacy forms of the government to try to make sure that nobody really studies this, that nobody believes this, that everybody thinks it's BS, which still some people do. Not everybody wants to believe it. But then you look back in history, you look at this artwork, you say, man, this is artistic disclosure, like the title. How did so many different illustrations of this come about? How do you get these woodcuts over the Scandinavian countries showing these huge UFO battles involving cigar-shaped craft, spherical-shaped craft? Because we're not alone. They've always been here. Nothing has changed. This is a long-term phenomenon. So once we get disclosure, it actually modifies our free will, because now we understand, like they said in the Law of One quote, that it gives us this taste of infinity. Our free will is modified, and we develop the desire to seek. We want to seek out the truth. We want to seek out knowledge. We want to seek out perhaps spirituality, perhaps Christ. Maybe more people get turned into, you know, that they have a spiritual path of seeking that they never had before. So it's important to remember these positive forces have always been here, and I think we can make a great case now that these celestial beings are behind the great world spiritual teachers. We see it with the Vimana. We see it in the Hindu illustrations. We see it with Jesus. We see it with all different types. In fact, when I get into my launch, I'm going to go through many different areas in which glorified beings appeared in history and talked about things in various places. It's fascinating when you do a cross-comparative analysis like Mesoamerica, Native American traditions, Australian traditions. They show up all over the place. They are definitely behind the great world spiritual teachers. And, of course, as we just saw, the UFO connection to Jesus is absolutely undeniable. There is no doubt that these illustrations reveal, at least in some cases, undeniable images of UFOs. Now, some of them, okay, yeah, it's a dove, there's a round halo around it. Maybe it's not really a UFO, but so many examples that seem just spot on, precise, that somebody knew something, somebody saw something that goes beyond what we would normally assume to be real. And so when you start to understand that this has always been there, that we're never alone, and that you see now truth is coming out, disclosure is happening, it's real, it's ongoing, it's a very, very fascinating thing. And as we get this taken care of, we're going to see... Okay, Lorraine says, in Springfield, Massachusetts, the image of the Madonna was on a window. Nobody put into it. It was all people blocking the traffic. They removed the window from the Mercy Hospital. Yeah, I mean, those are things that can happen. Extraterrestrial beings can do cool stuff. They can do materializations, apports. Did artists paint these independently? Paul Can asks. Obviously, yes. So yeah, I believe that as disclosure happens, we're getting closer to the idea that most of the UFOs visiting us are positive. When we looked at Sergeant Clifford Stone and the UFO crash retrievals that he was doing, they were human-looking beings inside, for the most part, the Heinz 57. These would be your Confederation sources. Again, the Law of One says there's 53 positive civilizations that are all helping us. Angelic beings are very real. And again, over and over again, you see these bell-shaped craft, UFO craft, connected to Jesus. So this is what helps me cope with the intense stress of these difficult times, knowing that these beings exist, knowing that they love us more than we can imagine, knowing that they have our higher consciousness in mind. That's what powers me through very depressing things like the advent of war. Let's just pray again. We will do that in a minute here, that the war is not going to expand too much. And I want to also point out that the more we know, the less we understand. It's like, okay, we do know that these UFOs are here, but we don't really know a whole lot. We don't really know, like, their names, what planets they're from. So the whole scope of what we could know is going to expand, and with that comes humility. We're going to have more humility as we realize that there's a lot that we don't understand, and that we shouldn't be so arrogant as to assume, oh yeah, that's all swamp gas. This has all been debunked. None of this is real. By the way, donation came in, a red one, $100. Thank you very much. This is just a projection. Thank you for everything, David. Your books and broadcasts are a revelation. That's right. It's almost like going to church, you know, getting to see these illustrations, and so many of them are Christian. It's beautiful stuff. The more we know, the less we understand. So I want you to remember that, you know, there's going to be a lot to learn. And as we get more and more layers of disclosure, I'm ready to learn new things. I'm ready for releases of information that change the picture. But like I said, they've told us that spheres exist, flying spheres exist, and we see flying spheres in that image of the goddess of luck from 1338. We saw that gold sphere. We saw the spheres in the woodcuts over Scandinavia, these battles in the sky. Now we find out, yep, spheres are one of the ones that are being modern disclosure tracking of those. It's fascinating how all these pieces connect. And we will learn a lot more. So we really don't know everything, and I'm open-minded about it. Where is this going to go? What are we going to learn as time goes on? We also want to remember that many people are living in a spiritual arrogance. They really do have a know-it-all complex. They think they know everything. And it's like, no, you know, we're actually not as wise as we think we are. There's so much to know that we don't know. And we got to remember that. Drop the spiritual arrogance and get into a consciousness of you know, hope and expectation about what we can learn. So religious people and scientists are going to be those who are the most affected by this. That's what we've always heard. Most people can handle it, but the scientists are going to have a really hard time, and the religious people are going to have a really hard time. We'll help them, and this artwork is a big bridge for that. So we're going to need to make room for a much bigger paradigm. And that's where, especially, again, religious people, scientists are going to have to go through this learning curve about, yep, there's a lot of stuff that you thought you knew, and it turns out that it's very different. Another thing that disclosure is going to bring us is this concept that life is far more precious and prevalent than we thought. We are actually being watched over by celestial beings. They're doing what we can do. Flying St. Joseph of Cupertino, yeah, that's a great example. The beings are looking out for us. They want to help us. They've always been there. Thank you guys again so much for the donations. I really appreciate that. No, I mean, come on. The donations that I got, somebody just trolled me, but the donations that I got are not, even enough for me to live off of right now. In fact, I have a lot of bills that need to be paid. So we're hoping that the deal is going to come through. We have a big deal that's pending for this coming week. It's supposed to have closed on Friday. We got one last little hurdle that we need to go through, and let's hope that it happens. But man, all the storms and the unbelievable amount of wind that we've had and the lack of snow, the fire risk that we're still under, it's really, really crazy. Really, really crazy. Anyway, definitely not doing this for money, but the money does help. So I believe that the purpose and motive of ETs is going to become paramount. We're going to find out who and what they are and what's really going on. I don't want to see it all get taken into a negative direction. Even the most jaded individuals, once this disclosure comes out, according to what Representative Anna Luna said, they're likely going to be pleasantly surprised. And I want you to take stock of who you are, take your personal inventory, and ask yourself, how is your relationship with your higher power? What makes you different from the average person? How can you be more effective at living life to its fullest? You take that personal inventory, and it all comes back to the idea that the universe is alive. You recognize that you can heal yourself through your own willpower. You can heal yourself through learning that you're not alone, learning that we're in a living universe. John Davies, the Romanian church, looked like Sputnik. Exactly. That's interesting. Yeah. Similar. Especially the guys holding the probes. That is fascinating. You got to wonder, maybe the Russians were inspired by that art in the first place when they designed Sputnik. So the universe is alive. We are not the only game in town. Dropping our arrogance once again, connecting with our higher self. Everybody loves the truth in the final analysis. Once we get to the truth, it's going to be great. You don't want to stray from your core principles. And so how you see others is a reflection of how you see yourself. That's the law of one again, stepping out of the illusions and embracing this greater truth where we realize that we've been watched over our entire lives. The principle of the glass ceiling, realizing that everything we do is being watched by higher beings who really do love us and want us to be preserved. And living with the knowledge that we are not alone, every thought is being monitored by both sides of this equation. We never underestimate the significance of our lives here. Everything that we do is being guided, protected. The negative forces see it, the positive forces see it. That's the glass ceiling. Every live stream has trolls. You're absolutely right. Something much bigger is going on here on Earth, and disclosure is a key aspect of our ascension process, where we're all going to be rethinking our position in the cosmos once we understand that we have never been alone. We will need leadership qualities. There is going to be a great I told you so party. And so, again, leaders are required, as this comes out, to lead us into the positive so we don't just get told, oh my God, it's all going to be negative and we're going to be invaded. This will have an effect much like chaos theory as it spreads through the public. We cannot predict the outcome in advance fully. Some people don't think anything will change from disclosure, but it's possible that everything will change. Suppressed technology becomes mainstream. We won't need oil, coal, gas, and nuclear power. Anti-gravity technology could be confirmed. We might hear about undersea and underground bases. We might also hear about the pyramid tunnels. We'll talk about that a little more again next week. We can all laugh at how foolish we were in the past. Disclosure should go well beyond our expectations. That's what I'm hoping for. The timing is very interesting, to say the least. We'll look at anomalies of the moon and Mars. Hopefully those will be taken seriously now. Different groups are going to try to commandeer the narrative. And with AI, again, some people are going to say, oh, that's fake, that's fake. It'll be difficult to discern the truth. Some people are going to believe it's a huge fake out. But everybody's going to look back at what was already said. And there should be a significant boom in new interest where speculation will be more easily welcomed. Fear-oriented material could cause concern, so we want to make sure that the negative doesn't win out, because this has stunning connections to ancient religions. And again, the government is going to be concerned about avoiding lawsuits, who knew what and when. But any degree of UFO truth will be a great boon to humanity. So I want you to keep your focus centered on the higher power, because that's really where it all comes from. And again, I'm so blessed to be with you here today. Miles Servant says, I have skin in the Stavati mission. As Kirk said in Star Trek, risk is our business. We're with you, David. Thank you very much. All right, now that we've done all that, and I did have to blow through it fast because we got Happy Birth Week, David. Somebody says, yes, Bacapalo. We got through all that stuff. Beverly Adams, significance of different blood types. We could talk about that next week. But again, it's a beautiful thing, man. I'm so happy that this is coming down the pipe. I'm so happy that we're going to get disclosure. And it's just, there's so many different meditations. Maybe I'll use some of these slides again next week because a lot of these can be unpacked a little more. But we just basically ran out of time if I want to get it done by 3:33. So with all that said, let us now do our global peace meditation. That's right. It's time, you guys. So I'd like you once again to put both feet flat on the floor, close your eyes, take a nice deep breath, and just let it go. Take another nice deep breath in, hold it for a bit, let it go. Remembering the glory of the one infinite Creator, how blessed we are to be alive in this time. The sharing that we have, the artworks that have showed us this artistic disclosure of the reality of flying discs going way back in time, surrounding the Christ, the Annunciation of Mother Mary, the baptism of Christ, beings that have always been here, that we are now learning have never left. We invite in these positive angelic forces. We thank you for protecting and watching over us. We thank you for all the great work that you've done to help us feel more and more alive, more and more at peace in the now, more capable, more loving, more integrated with your will for us as humans on this planet. We are so grateful for you. We are so grateful for your gifts, for what you share with us. We know that your positive teachings are transcendent. We know that you have so much to offer. And if any ads come up, we're just going to hit skip. So stay right in there with me if that happens. We take the time to breathe. We take the time to relax. We take the time to feel at peace. We take the time to be in our center, in our present moment. Just giving the now a chance to unfold and unroll, much like a beautiful scroll in the sky, like some of the ones we saw. Imagining the moment when the UFOs return to the sky, when we see these craft, and they hover and they float, and they give us reason for hope, reason to be alive, reason to be here in the present moment, fully embodied with the wisdom of cosmic consciousness, and the understanding that we were never alone, the understanding that we have always been watched over, guided, protected, that we are loved, that there is a consciousness in the universe, there is an intelligence to the cosmos, and it is glorious and it is bounteous, and it goes beyond space and time. It watches over us, it guides us, it protects us, it gives us hope, it gives us meaning, it gives us purpose. It makes us so grateful for who and what we are. Grateful for being here in today's world. Grateful for being given the gifts of life, given the gifts of this consciousness that we all share together. Knowing how long we have suffered to reach this point of ascension, to reach this point of disclosure. And we send prayers to the issues of all conflicts in the world, Russia, Ukraine, Iran conflict, praying that these can find resolution, that the suffering can stop quickly and effectively, and for the greater good of all involved, that there can be change, there can be healing, there can be renewal. There is a minimum of conflict. We remember how Mother Mary apparitions showed up during times of war, the Battle of Los Angeles right after we entered World War II. We call upon the higher forces. We call upon the power of Jesus Christ to give us new life, to give us new meaning, to give us new hope, to help us understand that we were never abandoned. We've never been left alone. We've always been in the palm of God's hand. We're protected, we're guided over, we are watched more than we could ever possibly imagine. So much to share, so much to know, so much to believe, and so much to live in this presence. Feeling that relaxation coursing through our bodies, going deep, deep within the silence. Knowing the bounty that awaits us, knowing the glory of our own ascension, our own revivification as we become totally embodied in this healing, totally embodied in this new consciousness, this new way of life. We are grateful for the power, the kingdom, and the glory of the Father, Mother, God. We are grateful for that presence touching our lives. We're so honored to be here today. We're so honored to be with each other in this presence, the supernal garden of the divine, knowing that we have never been abandoned, knowing that we have never been left alone. For thine is the power, the kingdom, and the glory forever and ever. And that is the way it always has been. For we are indispensably interconnected with the universe, with the divine. This is as it was, as it is now, and as it always shall be, and nothing and no one can take it from us. We bless all those in need of prayer and healing. We send that healing to ourselves as well, that we may treat ourselves with love, with compassion, with patience, so that we may seek the glory of the reunification with the one infinite Creator once more, and hope that we can fulfill that process to the very best of our ability. And so it is. Amen. Thank you very, very much. All right, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, come on back into the room. Got a couple minutes to spare. Julia and Georgia just donated $100 again. Wow, thank you very much. 3D, 4D Ascension relates to service to others versus service to self. What is the role of disclosure? It kicks lollygaggers into gear. They must see extreme polarity to make a choice with conviction. This is the whole point of the Earth School, experiencing polarity, not hiding from it. That's right. Beverly Adams, thank you for the donation. Your father's prophetic message, I'm aware of that. Hopefully we can cover that again some point. Amazing gift of hope and peace. Okay, who else has got comments here? I'm thankful for existing, says Maximilian. I think all of us should be thankful, even those who are still asleep. Yes, we have differences, but we all belong to the same family. God bless Master Jesus. Adonai, thank you. Thank you so much, David. Much love to all. Says co-create happiness. I'm glad you're back, David. Says Silva777. Always the best part of the class. Thank you. Great meditation. Says Paul Cannon. Yes, March 3rd is the blood moon. I hope that's when the mask comes off. Stavati updates. Yeah, we're supposed to be doing something really cool this week. Let's hope it happens. We're almost there. Really hope it works out. Maria Davis, I know you will miss me too. Linda Kiesling says it's nap time. Love and light from Arizona, says Wade Woodruff. I feel better now, says Manolox. Thanks again for staying positive. You are amazing. Love the content, says Alan August. Love from Brazil, says Demaria Loyal. Best show today, David. I loved it. Thank you. Yeah, the visuals really help, don't they? When you get all that visual support, all that beautiful artwork. Your global meditation was very reassuring. Today was another great show. Happy early birthday and go Stavati. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I want to thank you for being here. And we are going to close out now. So thanks again. Hopefully we'll see you next week with no interruptions. And scene.